you today. Oh, I only live for one thing, so that I can love you today. No, it's not something I take lightly. The waves in my mind is causing these lines. Finding ways to be exciting, cause I crave to compete with your ADD. Cause you are like golden. If I loosen my holding, you escaping out of my clutches. You'll be right to, you'll be right to, you'll be right to run. Oh, you'll be right to, you'll be right to, you'll be right to run. Oh, I only live for one thing, so that I can love you today. Oh, I only
unmute things.
So we were on mute. The greatest, the greatest thing that you do with live is mess up. Okay, so we'll start again, and again, we're here live with Henry Savek, and
Oh, we gotta do that, yeah.
yeah, we're gonna do the handshake one more time and redo the whole thing. But yeah, you were here for the first session. It was fun. Can you tell me a little bit about the experience of kind of sitting down for a roundtable session? You probably did it before with work and stuff, but in a candidate kind of discussion, how was that?
Well, I thought it was interesting because we were able to touch on things we all wanted to talk about. It was one of the first times we were able to sit with other candidates because we're out doing our own thing or whatever. So that was helpful. And it got a little interesting, so it was fun. It was
Well,
good.
you made it interesting.
No, I don't
Because we
I don't
did
think
talk
so.
about topics, and you went with your own topics sometimes.
Yeah, we got to talking about water, which is
Right.
always something, and a couple other issues, and honesty, which is important. So I think that's...
So you took the direction of the roundtable in one way. We start off with the topic, people discuss it, and then you went one way.
What way was that?
Well, it was your way. I call it the Henry way.
no.
But what kind of advice can you give to the other candidates coming up on how to get into the conversation? Because some people sit back
Yep.
and they watch
Yeah.
and let kind of fireworks fly, and some people get in. What do you suggest?
I'm kind of a rookie, so I don't really know, but I think the best thing is just be yourself. Just do what you do, and I mean, you can't really plan what to say because we have no idea what you're going to ask us,
Right.
and what other people are going to say. So just be yourself and don't be afraid to speak up.
And how do you feel about the discussion versus like other kind of debates that have been local, or they're just a question, you answer it, and it's a predetermined question?
I felt this was more natural, and people get to see the real people. Like you get to see what they're like, what they're about,
Yep.
how they interact. And that they're human. Sometimes they get heated and excited and passionate, and it's interesting how that's interpreted, because even though we might be passionate about someone, other people might say, well, you're pretty aggressive there, and you're thinking aggressive, we're just pushing a point or something,
Right.
So it's good to get that feedback.
Yeah, and we did it with different wards, so it wasn't all
Yeah.
just one ward talking about themselves. It was, you had to interact with other people that are talking about something in Wallaceburg, and you're talking
Right.
about something in Euro, and other people are talking about something in Chatham or Thamesville.
Yeah.
Is that a better kind of
Well,
way
the,
to go?
the challenge is because we have our local areas, like I'm Blenheim, Erio, and all of that, and then there's people in Wallaceburg, for example, but we're still passionate, even though we're really focused on helping the people in our areas, because we have unique problems and issues, you still push for the entire municipality. So even though we're separate, we're actually still in it. It matters to us what happens
Right.
in Wallaceburg, or the water in Kent, about the windmills. That's all important, even though, as we talked about, they can't vote for us over here. We still have to care for those people. And so that's why it was great to see that whole group together.
Yeah, and you had, what was the kind of like the back and forth, Carmen McGregor and you, she's
relive
gonna be,
that, aren't
she's
we?
gonna, well, she's gonna be back later tonight. She's gonna try to pop in. We're gonna do a quick
Oh,
chat with her.
that's great.
To see the other,
Yeah.
because it was pretty engaging. It was fun. The people that were watching live really loved it.
Okay.
They really enjoyed it. What kind of feedback have you heard from it?
From family, or basically I think the issue was the passion came out, and I think sometimes that's a problem I have, that I get really passionate, and that's interpreted sometimes as aggression, and I've got to watch that in
Yeah.
this field. My problem is, there's the real world and then there's politics. I don't understand the politics. I understand the real world, so that's all I can do. So sometimes I may say things that people say, well, that won't get you elected, but I think you have to be who you are, and whatever happens, happens. You trust the people.
I
right?
think I have seen a video ad of you, and the caption was why you might not vote for me.
Right. There's a lot of reasons why you may not vote for me, which one is that I'm not a politician. I can't tell you something and do something different the next day.
All right. What do you hope these people talk about tonight?
I hope we address some issues about the financial statements were recently released. All the candidates got that. Hopefully people read them and will be able to talk about them. They're pretty general. You can't get details, but there's enough there to talk about.
Okay.
And that's pretty important. And I think just how are people going to be able to verify that what you say you're going to do today, you're actually going to do when you get elected? Because general statements are easy.
Right.
We're all in this together. We'll hug it out. We'll all be great.
Yep.
But on the next day, what are you going to do Monday morning that I can verify that if I vote for you, we're really going to accomplish something? That to me is a big issue.
Good stuff. And one other thing that people I've been getting contacted about is accessibility to the council candidates and, well, the future councillors. How can people contact most candidates and
Well,
councillors?
I think you've done a great thing because, and I didn't know much about Facebook till this. I had a page, I guess, but I didn't even go there. So this has been interesting to find out the feedback you get from people instantaneously. So I think it's important to have people get access to you through your cell phone. Like my cell phone's out there. People on Facebook always message me. Like I've been dealing with all kinds of issues from what we're dumping on gravel roads to the quality of our water. Like people keep asking me questions very quickly, then I call and try to get answers to. So I think you can be more responsive. I'm interested in, like a lot of councillors go to all these community meetings, and other than trying to get reelected, I don't know what they accomplish. It's better, I think, to be accessible, like by phone, by this, have them. You could have one of these once a week when everybody could log on, right?
That's a great idea.
No, but I mean, you could log on
that.
and you could say, look, why did you vote that way, or why, or this is coming up. What do you think? Or I need your support about this on Monday because I'm going to do this. So I think it's important to use this technology to get everybody involved. Like it doesn't matter. And I'm surprised how many in my age group over 60 are actually active on social media. So that to me is, I think you've kind of opened some neat doors here.
My mother will say hello 30 times tonight. She'll be, hello, hello. So it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Non-political. What did you think about our entertainment tonight?
Loved it.
The universe featuring Ray.
Yeah, I loved it. I was tapping way down there.
Have you ever been to a political debate or discussion where the music came on first with
I
live
avoid
entertainment?
politics at all costs.
All right.
It's
well,
true.
well, hopefully we get more people involved in politics with bringing in music and stuff like that. So
that was awesome.
So we're going to have Doug Solomon coming up next. Henry, it's been great.
Great seeing
and
you.
If somebody doesn't show up, you're going to be in.
I'm on the bench.
You're on the bench. So thank you very much. And we got Mr. Solomon coming in.
There you go.
Okay. Let's do the switch out. Yeah, you're switching out. We're doing that switch live, I think.
Good to see you.
Yep.
We're doing it live.
We're doing live. You are hopping on live. You're in the hot seat. There we go. So I guess when we do live, we don't tap on the table because people at home hear the tapping. Okay.
Yeah,
Doug,
I watched that the other night.
How you
tapping
doing?
on the table.
So you made it out. Okay.
Yes.
Can you? How long have you been sitting on council?
Well, I think I ran against you one time.
3 times and I lost.
3 times,
We
that's
don't,
what it was,
We
yeah.
don't. We're not going to talk about the 3 times I ran and lost. That's not going to happen tonight.
Well, it was those 3 times.
Yep.
And I think another one after that.
Okay.
And hopefully another one after October 22nd.
Okay. Now you got a family history of people sitting on council or in politics in Chatham-Kent, don't you?
That's right, yep.
Okay. Where did it start?
Oh, it started about in the 1800s, I think.
Really?
Yeah, and we've had a family tradition of serving our community.
So.
And that's why I do it.
Okay. What's been your favorite part sitting on council? What do you think we face in the future for challenges?
Let's start with what my favorite part is.
Let's do it.
It's helping people. When somebody calls up and has a problem, you know how to get the answers for them. And it can be simple things like snowplow not cleaning out the crescent. It can be potholes that are so deep that they're ruining rims on cars. And it can be bigger problems with respect to payments for assistance and other things like that. And that's what gives me the real satisfaction, is helping people.
What is the most crazy request or something crazy over the years that you've sat on council that's kind of, you've had that call and you're like, wow, this is not what I ever thought I'd be into?
That's a real great question. And I don't have a real great answer, unfortunately. I think it probably had something to do with skunks, if I remember correctly.
Was that what somebody thought of council smelling like? Or
Council in general? No. They were actually skunks coming up and out of the creek along Mud Creek area.
Okay.
And digging in the lawns. And people wanted to know whether they could get rid of the little varmints themselves.
Right.
And that's how they described them. And no, we had a protocol. We have a skunk protocol in Chatham-Kent. And that's probably the craziest thing I can think of.
And did you tackle the situation?
Well, I said I get right out there and take care of it myself.
Did you bring some?
No.
What do you gotta do? Tomato soup if you get nailed by a skunk or whatever?
Well, that's what they say. If your dog or something gets nailed by a skunk, you put tomato soup on it, or I think it's tomato juice.
Tomato juice.
Or maybe
okay.
you make a cocktail of tomato juice and
Well, we did have the
tomato soup.
world's largest Caesar made here, so we could almost use some of that to tackle the skunk problem if it ever happens again.
We could, Could have put on all the people who get sprayed by skunks in all of Chatham-Kent. It was that big. Yeah, that's probably one of the craziest things.
Yeah.
But you're supposed to catch them in cages.
Right.
So we got cages out to people.
Yep. So that happened. You got cages out to the people, and you
Oh,
took care of the
yeah.
skunk problem. What do you see as a challenge over the next 4 years?
Well, as you know, in this election, it's unique. We have 7 incumbents who aren't running, and of the 10 incumbents that are still there, 4 of them have only served 1 term. And any councilors who have served 1 term, if they're honest with you, they're going to tell you, you need more than 1 term to find out what's going on around that place. It's a $300 million budget. It's a big operation.
Right.
So I think the challenge we're going to face, and including in that, is there's every possibility you're going to have a rookie mayor too.
Possibility
So I think the
exists.
big challenge is to blend the experience with people, new people.
Doug, I hate to do
That's
this.
a
here.
great balance.
I got to turn this off. It keeps on dinging, and people are hearing at home, and I see the tech guys going, "What is going on?"
I noticed their eyes were popping and
Yeah.
their ears were popping. So
So, what do you see as great opportunities? Something that we can explore as a whole of Chatham-Kent, like in the future here.
great opportunities.
Yeah,
I
like
think we're going to be faced with some right off the bat. We've got some recreational opportunities that we're going to face.
like a sports complex or something.
Well, like in the early stages of the next council, we're going to have to deal with that issue.
Okay.
And by dealing with it, I mean we're going to have to make some decisions.
Where do you stand on it? Do you want a sports complex?
Sports complex. I don't know about
multi-sports
it.
complex.
We have that.
A multi-sports complex, twin pad arena, with options for an indoor soccer or indoor football.
Oh, you mean like on the old international site?
That would be a good idea, or anywhere it would work that you think would be best. Other communities have it.
We faced that problem a couple years ago when we were debating on the YMCA, which is a recreation facility, and the St. Clair College Healthplex. So we have those done already. What we've got to decide is, where do we need a dual pad arena? But that's the easy decision. The answer is yes.
How do we pay for it?
The hard question is where. How do we pay for it? Who pays for it? That's the province, the feds, maybe some business. Who knows? And then we got the real hard question is, if you build that, what do you close? Because there's not that many little hockey players as there used to be 20, 25 years ago.
Could that be
Or in your case, how long ago?
wow, a while ago now.
In my case, we were flooding the streets with road hockey players and filling the. We only had 1 arena at that point in time.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, and I want to talk about the rail line while I got you here.
Oh yeah, I've got an idea for that.
What do you got for the idea, Doug?
Well, I was thinking the old McDonald's caboose that used to be down the street.
Okay.
I think that's the only way that railroad could ever be have a positive effect.
Okay, what about the Great Ontario Marathon Trail, making it's 26.2 miles, the
Yeah.
exact distance of a marathon? What about making it a trail that connects Chatham, Dresden, and Wellsburg?
A trail is a real good idea. A railroad is not a good idea.
How did
Not
you,
owned by a municipality.
Okay,
Anyway.
how did you get into a situation where you got the rail line?
I didn't get into that situation.
How were you
I was
part
always
of?
opposed to
How
it.
were you a part of the situation that got the rail line?
There were demands. It was right at the beginning of the current mayor's term, first term, and I think it was right within a month or two
Okay.
of him being elected and some new councillors. And it came forward from councillors in North Kent and Wallaceburg. And they wanted that rail line to run near Tupperville and then into Wallaceburg. And the idea was, well, maybe we can load ships from the rail line. And then it sort of blossomed and was justified later as this great fertilizer plant that was going to arrive from China and
Okay.
suddenly set up thousands of acres near Tupperville. We later learned that wasn't.
There was no big operation from China?
No,
Okay.
apparently not. It was a bunch of fertilizer, I think.
Okay.
Maybe
Good stuff. Okay, Doug, it's been good to have you on. We're going to have entertainment come back on with the universe featuring Ray. Then we're going to have and I want people who are watching to tune in and watch the roundtable sessions that we're going to have right after. And we're going to have 3 of them. 5 candidates are going to sit down and chat. Then we're going to do another 5 and another 5. Doug, what would you want to tell people who are listening right now to elect you or something? You got the space, got the time.
Well, the first thing I was going to say is I wish you'd been elected in one of those 3 times, because I think we would have had a good time on council.
I always have a good time.
Yeah,
So
well, that's
I'm
what I
having a fun
thought.
time.
That's why I like the idea.
But you beat me. That was the problem. You took my spot.
There was room for you, Ben. What I really like to tell people is what I started to say is that this is a $3 million operation, and $300 million operation. And while we're going to have some new people there, it's vital, if you want to have the success of the community, to have someone there who's got experience, knowledge, and common sense. And I think if that works, and if you believe in your community and believe that you should have people there who actually have some base knowledge and are able to mentor new young people, that's what I see my role as in the upcoming term. And there's rarely a meeting where that experience hasn't saved the community getting into trouble or saved cash and tax cost.
Good.
And that's what I really think we need to look forward to.
All right. Well, Doug, thank you for coming on.
Great
And
fun.
we're going to take a little break, and we're going to be back with a little bit of Universe featuring Ray, and then the Konstantino candidate roundtable.
I want my own legs so I can lay naked when I want. Lay naked when I want. Lay naked when I want. And if the trees done spread and exposed me, no, I don't care. I got no sense of embarrassment. No sense of embarrassment. Does that mean I'm comfortable in my own shell? When you look at me, you can't help but wish me well, wish me well. And how backwards is the world where happy people have no place to play. The playground is for all of us. Won't you share the past, and we can build this together. When we build our castle in the sand, we can spread the wealth, and we can live there together. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh. Well, I turn off the TV and I go outside. I'm making my own show, and it plays all the time, all the time. And when I see a stranger, I walk by and give you a high five. But it's okay to pass me by, because I'll meet you in another life, another life. Sometimes you may feel like you have no place to play. Say we're living and that's okay. You will see better days. And if your girlfriend running down you, say go give that deal. There's so many fishies in the sea. I don't know where to swim. The playground is for all of us. Won't you share the pail, and we can build this together. When we build our castle in the sand, we can spread the wealth, and we can live there together. Oh, oh, together, yeah, together. Well, I turn off the TV and I go outside. I'm making my own show, and it plays all the time, all the time. When I see you, stranger, I walk
Hey guys, we are live and we have 5 great candidates here and we are going to be talking about transportation. But first, I want to thank Konstantino as our main sponsor for the event for this roundtable session. And we got Michael Bondi, Penelope Duchesne? Duchesne. I called her Penelope Cruz before. It's Duchesne now. Okay. Claire Latimer, Art Sterling, and Brian Fluker. Okay, so the way it goes, we're going to have a discussion. If it dries up and they can't come up with more stuff to talk about, I'll throw another topic at you. Claire,
Sure.
talk about transportation. Lead it off. It's on you.
Transportation or lack of across Chatham, Kent, particularly if you need accessible transportation. But I find there's a lot of areas in the budget, namely social services, EMS, who are transporting people who, if there was accessible, affordable transportation across the municipality, that money could be spent in transportation and not as part of the budget of their budgets. We're already spending the money. A lot of times in those other areas, it's not being spent appropriately. And I don't think you'd have to, it wouldn't cost as much as it currently is for those current budgets if accessible, affordable transportation could be rendered through transportation. And there'd be money left over in those current budgets to do what they're supposed to be doing.
Anybody else want to speak to that? I'm just sitting here as a middleman, by the way, and you guys jump in when you want and go with it.
Anybody else?
You don't have to raise hands, just jump in.
Hi, Ben.
Hi, Mike. How you doing?
I'm okay. So, Claire, are you talking about public transit?
I'm talking
Like
about
buses?
I'm talking. It could be a refinement, not a refinement, but a change in the current system. But you could be using rideshare. You could be using accessible, and there is accessible rideshare available. And I'm not sure anybody in the municipality realizes that. Because the current applications aren't through yet. At least I don't think they were through last week when I checked. But there is that there's accessible U-Ride. And that's a good thing because right now we don't have accessible transportation. If you require a wheelchair or mobility device and to be transported across the municipality, we don't have anything. And there are people sitting who want to get to school, who want to get to the medical appointments and or their programming and can't. And they're costing the system because of that.
Is it lack of transportation, Claire, or is it the fact that there might be multiple providers and there's very little coordination of that effort? Because I do know that CHAP, for example, participates in this space. I understand U-Ride. We have accessible transit in Ward 6 in the community of Chatham. We do offer other means to get people around, but I wonder if the challenge is because there's so many particular options out there that there's not that coordinating effort, or is it actually a significant lack of resources?
Right now, there is no accessible transportation. For CHAP, they will take you to your medical appointments. They're already overtaxed.
Right.
They'd love to meet that need. They can't. They logistically cannot. And I think there may be talk of another application, CHAP getting another accessible ride, and that's great. Like, that's what I'm talking about. That needs to be expanded.
And
The wheels are, you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
And I do understand
yeah.
that our EMS resources are being used in this area, which perhaps is not the best use of our EMS resources.
It definitely is not.
And there is Voyager, and there are other private offerings that are out there for those who have means that are able to make use
But
of
that's
those.
not affordable. If you're
Well,
a
that's what I
student
just said,
and
for
you're
those that have means.
That's right. But they're right now, if you need accessible transportation in Chatham, Kent, it is not available for when you need it. Now, there is accessible handy transit, but again, the wait times and the scheduling, because of the large geographical area we cover, they can't logistically, they can drop them off, but when they're done their appointment, they may wait up to 2 hours to be picked up.
Is there anything good about our transportation system?
Sure, there's a lot of good about it, but what's
Feel free to
what's lacking is monies, and there isn't any new money, and there isn't going to be new money. So I'm looking for reallocation, and that means I'm looking at the parts of the budget or the departments that are currently carrying out transportation costs. In other words, I know there are people who are being, or Ontario Works, Community and Social Services are being billed for transportation, and that's not appropriate.
I
because
have
there
gone
isn't.
through 20 budgets at Chatham Kent, 20 budgets. We do get funding from the province.
Yes, you do.
For transit. I have seen, and I live in a community, not Chatham.
No.
I have seen from the various 2 nursing homes and the 1 retirement home where I forget what you call this company that
You run?
will pick them up.
Or
and-
CHAP.
CHAP.
Yep,
And they will pick them up at no cost because I've asked 2 friends of mine if they've had to pay for costs for them to go to a doctor's appointment or to the hospital
You got
for
it, for a
x-rays.
medical appointment.
Amen. And that's exactly it. No, they do not get an appointment to go to Walmart to pick up groceries or shopping. Okay? And I can understand that. Now, I'm looking over at Councillor Bondi right now. And when I look at the budgets that we do, yeah, we do provide, and we get close to 80 to 90% funding. It's about 10% funding that is out of our property tax right now. So when I look at the communities, and you're right, the transit that we provide, there are 3 buses that come into Tilbury, not to Wheatley, which is 5,000 people. No, I'm sorry, 4,500. Okay, because they have 1 bus that goes from Leamington to Wheatley, because that's where they get their health
right.
care and their groceries.
Yeah.
We have 3 buses that come into Tilbury, and there's an average of 1 to 2 people sitting on it.
And why is the ridership so low?
The ridership is so low because most people, we have volunteers in smaller communities that if somebody's got a doctor's appointment or something of that nature, there are all kinds of people that I can name, and I'm not going to name them right now, that in smaller communities will take somebody easily. And that's kind of why I like Chatham Kent, because when I watch the transit bus go by, sitting in a coffee shop, and it's empty, I have people ask me, how much is that costing me?
Yeah.
And
I
I
would
have
too.
to tell them, well, the province, Doug Ford's paying for it.
No. What?
But he might not keep on paying for it. And that's what my big concern is what kind of things are we going to get stuck with paying for in the next year or 2 that this Chatham Kent Council is going to have to pay for.
Well, we have a,
I agree that the intertransit, interurban bus is barely used.
is underutilized. I agree.
Yeah,
right.
And to say, well, you know, 'cause you hear this argument all the time in council. Well, the province is paying for some percentage of it. Well, I live in Ontario, so that's still my
It's still
tax
your
money, right?
That's right.
So it's not coming out of property tax. Well, that if it's underutilized, and Councillor Fluker, you've brought this up many times, the bus rolls by, empty or with 1 person.
Yes.
So yeah,
Why
there's
is it running at that time if it's empty or 1 person? Has anybody
that's a
looked
great
at
question.
why
We've been
it's
asking
not?
for
It is
8
running
years.
at 8:30, 12:30, and 4:30. Those are very good times if you have to get back into a community or leave a community.
Not if your appointment is at 10 o'clock and you're done at 11.
I have 3 people in Tilbury they can call, and they'll be there.
I need your Rolodex.
I'll
because
give
I
you
have
my
a-
Rolodex.
I think we could also improve our community transport, like to Walmart. And when you watch a movie, you have no fare to come back from the movie. We
That's
could
right.
improve the business situation if we gave them a bus till I don't know which time the movie finished, and their kids have nothing to do. If they had a bus that come back, then they don't need their parents to go to the movie. Gives them one thing to do in Chatham that we could
Yeah,
look
it's-
at.
Penelope, you're right. You hear that all the time, that kids can get to the movies, but they
But they
can't
can't get
back.
home. Exactly.
You know, which is
and that's
That is a
exactly what
good
you
point.
hear about
That
the
is a good
medical,
We could
any
improve
appointments.
on a lot of level. We
And
could.
even if it ran, and again, you know, if you had all the money in the world, then you could just run buses all the time. But
Yeah.
we don't have all the money in the world.
No.
But if right, but if it ran
We
maybe
wish.
Thursday or Friday nights or something, because really,
Exactly when
you know, this is from a Chatham perspective, obviously. There's not a whole lot going on, you know, and I've got 5 kids. I know all about nothing going on. But the movies is a big thing, right? And we have a wonderful movie facility. So the idea that they can get there, and the last thing I want, I'd rather drive them there than pick them up.
Amen.
S.
So,
Yeah,
you know,
that'd be true.
so yeah, it's a good point, but it's all about money, right? Like, you know, running buses, but it does seem illogical that one of the biggest draws in the municipality has a way out, but definitely not a way
And
back.
the worker too, Walmart, they close at 10.
They have no way of
I
getting.
mean, I was
yeah.
at community living, and a lot of the complaints was that they can't come back from work. That's not right. We want to get them to work, and we want to help them come back.
But we
If
have
they're going to
moved the
pay in
bus
the
stop.
system.
Yes,
And that was a big deal, because that was
and that was a
insane.
major
Way back
undertaking,
when.
and kudos to Jan.
Yeah, because that was crazy watching these people in the driving
Yes,
rain. You're like,
that's
oh,
right.
feel kind
Yes.
of bad driving by, you know. And
And
so
you're-
that was one small step. So, but that it's a
I'm
it's
from
a
the-
complicated issue.
I'm from Montreal, so buses everywhere. You don't need to own a car, so I'm definitely would like to see improvement, see what we could do to make it better. I'm all for that for sure.
And it's always a challenge.
Of course,
with the number of,
everything is.
with the area, we have to.
And the big deal is people getting to work from one spot to another. Say Tilbury, and they work in Chatham.
They drive their car, Ben. There's no doubt about it. They drive their
There's a
car.
lot of people that.
I'm sorry, drive on Middle Line, Highway 2 at 7 o'clock in the morning, and you cannot pass. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you cannot pass. It's full, and my gosh, I'm sure they work in Blenheim. I'm sure they
Yeah,
work in
Communication
Dresden.
Road and Blenheim to Chatham is the same
Exactly,
thing.
Art. I agree with you. Yeah.
But we do have hundreds of jobs available in the areas, and we do have.
750 jobs are available.
Okay, so we do have
Economic
750
Development
jobs
said
that are available.
Absolutely.
And we do have, we can fill those spots, but some people do not have the transportation from Tilbury or Wheatley or Thamesville or Bothwell to get into the other locations. And so there's a transportation issue there. Not everybody has a car.
And for training to
So
get in.
I believe that, I totally believe it. Yeah, there's a lot of cars going. But what can we do to help people that want to work in another area that don't have a car?
How about a rideshare program
Well,
for all
promote-
those cars
promote
that are
carpool
going down
as
the
well.
road?
Carpool,
That
even.
happens.
Yes,
happens a lot.
I think it could happen
It
more.
does
Not
happen.
organized.
Yeah, it's not
It's
organized.
not organized. but-
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not organized, and
That's one thing that
we
could
don't need government into a lot of ride sharing. If somebody has gotten a job, even in a town of Tilbury,
Yep.
45 people got hired last Thursday
Yep,
for
they did.
RNS Technologies.
They did.
Yes, they did. And some of those people live in Tilbury, and they will have to get rides in Tilbury out to Industrial Road. And that same thing I know is going to happen in Chatham. If there's any jobs picked up, you've got to find a ride. Now, you're lucky you do have transit. But in communities like Blenheim and Tilbury and Dresden,
Thamesville. and
those
Bothwell.
transits
Yeah.
aren't there. And so people do share, like we still have the smaller communities, even though we are the big Chatham Kent. The communities still take care of a lot of the people within themselves. I'm looking at Art right now because he
Well,
lives in the Blenheim area, and I'm sure
That's true.
that is the case. Yeah.
What's the biggest issue facing Blenheim with transit?
Well, certainly, I'd like to see the ridership increase in the interurban. I was a strong
Wouldn't take much.
proponent. I was a strong proponent of the interurban before because I found it as one way to link communities in a bigger community that's somewhat unwieldy. So the fact that we were able to link Blenheim and Ridgetown and Tilbury and Wallaceburg to Chatham and vice versa, I thought was a worthwhile exercise. And I think the Ridgetown Blenheim Chatham route has probably been one of the best utilized of them all.
I would agree.
And I do know that there, because I've seen them stand at the bus stop in front of Tim Hortons in Blenheim, and that there'll be 6 or 7 people getting on, and there's students going to St. Clair College. There's people going to work. Some seniors will actually stick around for a couple hours if their appointment's at 10 and they've
Yes,
got,
but they have a place to
if they
be
can
there
go
in
to a
Blenheim,
coffee
right?
shop, or if they can go to a store, or have some other reason that they need to be in Chatham or vice versa, then they will utilize that service. I think we need to do a better job of promoting that service.
I think
And I think we can probably piggyback on the concern about accessibility. I do know that some of our interurban buses are set up to take
They are.
wheelchairs. They're set up to take bicycles. So there's been some progress in that area, and I think that the more that we can piggyback services and tweak schedules, you know, I think we can utilize the existing resources that we have in a much more effective way. But I do still think that there's a lack of coordination between the private operators, the municipal transit,
Yes.
the U-Rides, the taxis. I think right now there's no overarching transportation plan. There's no overarching coordination. You know, I think at one point, if I remember right, Councillor Bondi, I think, brought up a motion once to have a transit commission or transit committee.
That would make sense.
That would provide advisory services. I think I supported that at the time. I still
hope
think
so.
I think that's a great idea.
Is that
Yeah,
in
no,
place?
it was. Pardon?
Is that in place?
No, it failed.
How did it
failed.
fail? How did it
Because
fail?
I brought it out. No, but the idea was to basically just have an oversight board to investigate. It all kind of started with, I brought a motion for a seniors bus pass, right, which was, you know, economical, blah, blah. So the idea was to maybe have a voluntary board look into it, because frankly, like, all these ideas are great to have buses running everywhere all the time. But if there's nobody on them, they're very costly. Like,
Exactly.
they're very expensive. So, you know, it's easy to sit here live with Ben and say we should have buses everywhere all
No,
the time.
that's not what we're
You know,
saying.
I
look
know
at
we're
what
not,
they
but
need.
we're
We're
kind
saying a
of.
coordinated transportation
Well, that was my point, was
program.
that we would
Yes.
do that. But we have to look at the need, and if
Yep.
the need isn't there,
Then don't.
there's lots of places where money is needed.
Yes.
And again, you know, we don't have all the money in the world, so I just felt we were kind of drifting into, like, let's provide busing for everybody all the time. We can't do that. Like, you look at these
No.
buses, and frankly, they're empty most of the time. So should they, as Art
That's
said,
the
like, be
tweaking.
retweet?
Yeah.
Maybe, but maybe those people just aren't there.
Or
Like,
maybe we could just use those buses for other purposes. You know, for
and
when
I couldn't
when
agree
we,
more, because we should do something differently, because it is kind of upsetting to see, you know, empty buses. You think obviously they cost a lot of money to run, their buses, right? So there's got to be a better way, which is where my commission would have come in. So thank you for your support, Art, and
Good memory, huh?
I can't remember.
supported
I
me.
can't
'Cause you
remember.
always do, right?
Oh,
Is it
always,
possible to
always.
reignite something like that?
Yeah, of course.
Sure.
Yeah.
Bring it
I
back.
think that'd be a great idea.
So what was it exactly, and how does that get turned down? That's my question. It's a volunteer commission idea. What was it?
Yeah, it was sort of like an oversight board to provide recommendations to administration and bring in people that kind of
That have already
have some
invented the wheel.
expertise in it.
Yeah.
And how did it fail? I don't know. As long
How,
as,
how much would that cost? Because when you say volunteers, I'm
well,
thinking.
that was the point. It was going to be free, right?
So how do you turn that down? I'm wondering.
Well, frankly, I don't remember. No,
It
it
just
wasn't very
happens.
memorable as it failed. Right? Not on the top of my highlights, but
I think there
It's
was
definitely an
there
area.
was some at the time we were trying to reduce the number of oversight committees, as I recall,
Bingo.
and there was some concern that this would be another committee that staff would have to support, that a counselor would have to sit on.
And nothing
Yeah,
would
but it's
result
good for
from
your
it.
I'm not
Yes,
saying it,
yes.
I'm pretty sure I supported you. I think it was a
pretty
great.
sure.
It was turned down, though.
No, I did. But the point is, it doesn't matter because right then it was you were like a fish swimming upstream
yeah,
because we were trying to reduce.
Well, a lot of time, yeah. That's
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
happening.
You can't
Nothing
you can't
gets done.
increase the cost while you're trying to decrease the cost, and that's always the balance you, for any program you're going to work as run in the municipality, right?
But this could come back in the
Yes.
next term of council if we wanted to. You know, we could revisit the idea,
needs
because I
to
think
be
that was in the
addressed.
term before this term of council.
Yeah,
Well,
because
it must
I
have
wasn't
been,
there.
right,
This,
yeah.
this term I have not been with you.
Not physically, but in spirit.
There you go.
Okay, we're gonna wrap it up here shortly, but I did have a question in the crowd. I went out and I said, "Hey, what's the biggest thing that you guys want me to talk about or them to talk about?" And somebody said, "Teamwork. How do you guys work together?" Penelope, start with that. How are you guys gonna work together on council as a team, 17 plus a mayor?
Well, I think the voter are gonna have to do a lot for that. Right now, I think we have a council that's usually more throughout administration and just always agree with administration. I think we need a council that really gonna be willing to listen to the taxpayer and try to save cuts. I mean, I've been going door to door, and people are $6,000-7,000 in tax. The water is up 55%. We need a council that wants to work for the taxpayer. That's not what's going on right now. So that's what I think. And if we agree more, if there's a council that agree more, that thinks the same, so that be the people electing the people, and that are more on the same idea, same protecting the taxpayer, then you might have a council that gets along and gets thing done and vote, and that's why I think a smaller council will be better as well, because they never get along, nothing gets voted in. That's my opinion.
Michael, you're on council. Are you not protecting the taxpayer?
I say some. I said some. I said
But he was
some.
beside you.
Ben,
Okay.
I said some. Mike is one of the
Why
one that
me, Ben?
protects
What about
the
Blinkers right
taxpayer.
there. In response to that, I believe that we generally get along. There is, there's the ward divisions, and there's that, right? And that can present itself to be a bit of a challenge from time to time. So I would hope the next council, although it's been tried endlessly and it always fails, but that we would redivide the wards. Like, for instance, like Linwood subdivision is not part of Ward 6.
It's
St.
Ward
Clair
2.
Estates is not part of Ward 6.
Indian Creek.
Anybody on the other side of
Indian Creek.
Indian Creek
Yep, Ward 2.
is Ward 2. So that makes no sense. It really doesn't make any sense at all. So we could try again. And hopefully this time it works, but we should redesign the ward system, if we in fact stay with the ward system, which I'm sure we would have to in some form. And a reduction of council obviously has been tried and failed. So I don't know if Mr. Ford gets wind of us, we're in big trouble. 'Cause, Toronto's now gonna have 25 for like north of 2.5 million people. And we're,
Yeah.
we've
It's
got
just so
17, so
ridiculous.
that'll reduce us to about like 1. If you actually did the math.
That'll be the most efficient council ever.
Ever.
Yeah, probably. Short meetings.
Actually, I think that Mike raises a really good point because of what's happening in Toronto right now. One of the biggest criticisms of amalgamation 20 plus years ago, and they've always called it a shotgun marriage. And not to revisit reopen all those past wounds, but in that particular case, local councils chose not to take leadership. And we could find ourselves in the exact same situation. And that's why I think it's really, really important that we do, that the next term of council, that there is a revisiting of the ward distribution,
I second that.
the ward sizes, the number of councillors, everything to do with it, because we need to come to a solution, homemade solution. We need to be in charge. We should show some leadership this time around, because if the Conservatives remain in power at Queen's Park for a number of terms, or even a couple of terms, there's a good chance that they might come around and say, okay, well, it worked in Toronto, let's see where else it can work. And we could find ourselves being forced again. And I'd much rather proactively design what works
I
best
agree.
for Chatham
Right,
Kent.
rather
Yeah,
than
me
Ontario
too.
come down and
Exactly.
Rather than have something nailed down on top of us. So.
And you know why it's
totally
failed the
agree.
last couple times is we've said, okay, let's revisit the ward system, the size of council, but we've never came with a plan. It's always been, let's investigate a plan. So maybe it would be more successful if
We actually
it
produced
came
plan
in with
A,
a
B,
plan,
and
so
C.
we would.
But
'cause
we
it's
did.
always kind of like
I served on the corporate governance committee that we had. What was that? 2 terms ago? 3 terms ago.
Yeah, it's
and
before
and,
me.
and we brought in a lot of community volunteers who led a consultation process in all the wards, and they overwhelmingly said, at least once you get beyond Chatham, they overwhelmingly said, we like the representation we have. Because we have such a large geography, we want to have accessibility to our
Yes.
local elected
That's right.
officials.
That's right.
And in a ward like East Kent or South Kent or North Kent, they're particularly large. Brian's down there in his own little fiefdom, but for everybody else, I mean,
They were happy with the
there's a lot.
situation?
They were happy with having 2 or
Except the city of
except in
Chatham.
South Kent, and the recommendation at the time was go from 3 to 2 in South Kent. But other than that, there was no recommended changes from the citizens
Of those
of Chatham Kent in those ward discussions, the
but
consultations.
not including City of Chatham and Ward 2. They were more leaning towards change.
Well, Ward 6 definitely, but
Always
the
is, yeah.
recommendation at the time was, well, maybe we should divide Ward 6 into 4 smaller wards.
Oh, God
Yeah,
help us!
no,
Wouldn't that be
I would
better?
agree to that.
What about the pie? option where you are responsible
you've got a lot of time on your
for
hands.
both your
Open the can of
urban and rural constituents. So you
That
have
is
to
a
take.
very poor idea.
I'm gonna sit back.
Well, I always wondered
I'm
what
sorry,
happened.
Ben. Boy, this could go on for another 2
But
hours.
I want to hear
Well,
what
you
happened
guys
with
got
that
8
because I
minutes.
never heard.
It
why-
died. And a lovely
lovely
death
death
it
it
was.
was.
It was a lovely death. It died. I'm sorry. Being the last mayor of Tilbury, we had discussed amalgamation, but it had nothing to do with Chatham and Chatham Kent.
I know. 'cause you
We were
on the other end.
discussing with Tilbury North,
Yes.
Tilbury West, Lighthouse, Stony Point, Comber, and so on. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, Mike Harris said, "Oh, sorry, here's the boundaries. You're now with Chatham." I got to be candid, it has worked very well. Now, people aren't going to agree with that, but it has worked fairly well, very well. I don't have a parking place anymore. I did when I was mayor. That's very upsetting. But in all candor, the way things have functioned, because I remember going to meetings in Wheatley right after amalgamation, and they set up their own citizens group trying to join with Leamington. They were very upset that Wheatley was involved with anything to do with Chatham. And in all candor, as a representative for that area, their kids can go to school there, they get their health care in Leamington, they do their shopping in Leamington. They're quite pleased. I better be careful. They won't see this in Wheatley anyway. But they're
Right.
fairly
It's
It's the
pleased.
easiest way to do it.
They're fairly pleased that the structure of municipal government hasn't changed, where they actually do their socialization, their schooling, their health care, their shopping. And I'm very pleased that a lot of our administration attend a lot of their meetings.
Yeah.
Yes, they
Well,
do.
They attend a lot of
We
their
pay them
meetings,
for that,
and
though.
they were
Pay them
there
well,
last.
too.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. But they do attend their meetings because
They should be.
there was a big issue about the harbor in Wheatley, which is a big issue,
Yes,
which is
it's a major-
irrelevant to Chatham. But our CAO was there. Another member of our administration was there, and he handled himself extremely well about how that was to be done. So when I hear arguments that this present council is sucked up to the administration, really not the case. If
I
you
will
sit
argue
through
it.
a council meeting, I will argue with you too.
Okay.
But that's what we're here for, isn't it?
That's it.
Exactly.
That's
Ben,
right. It's a
I
respectable
could
debate.
yammer on for hours.
Yeah, but we only have
I'm
30
done.
more seconds of you yapping.
I'm
that
done.
way.
I'm
But
done.
then- so we're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna go round table. We're gonna give everybody 90 seconds to talk about whatever they feel they want. If you can't come up with a topic yourself, you're gonna have to talk about the sportsplex I want. Okay, that's Twin Pad Arena, indoor soccer, pool, basketball nets. So, but you can talk about whatever you want. We're gonna go with who wants to take the lead here. Michael, go for it.
I will.
You have to.
Yeah, I guess so. Eh?
You got the point. Yeah.
Well, in 90 seconds, I guess let's
have
talk about the
30.
sports complex.
Yes,
All right.
I
Yeah, I'm
will.
trying to chew through, so now I'm down to 20. Great idea. Obviously, there's a lot of support in the community for it, but I think we have to be responsible and understand how much is it going to cost, what kind of tax burden is it going to inflict on people, because it's going to be incredibly costly. And that being said, if we do explore further the idea of a recreational sports facility, I think we really do have to look at what are we going to give up, because we have a lot of arenas, 11. Are we going to close underutilized arenas, Mr. Fluke?
I want to
Don't worry, you get your
intervene
30
there.
seconds.
I can help you.
Well, frankly, you can't have it all. Like, if
Right.
we're going to build a new, potentially $40 million facility,
Probably higher.
Yeah, I heard him.
yeah, well, depending on how many seats you want, and that's the other thing we have to be careful. Do we need something with 3,500 seats, 5,000 seats? Well, for what? Like, for
Yeah.
who's coming? Like, the arenas take up, like, I don't know, 35 nights a year or something. It's really low. I'm sure it's not that number, but it's a low number. And people say, oh, well, then there's entertainment that can come in. Well, we have a Capitol Theater, and we also have another theater about a block and a half away from that one that we also own.
And they struggle to fill those seats.
They sure do. So I think it has to be a logical conversation, and not, 4 weeks before an election say absolutely a twin pad arena with a bunch of seats and a swimming pool and a track and
Yep.
that's easy.
Now we're talking.
No.
But you can't do that. It's
No.
got to be a reasonable
You got-
conversation. Like
you-
if it's cool as long as everybody says, okay, we'll just raise our taxes 6%, and that's not going to happen.
It's not gonna happen.
And where are we going to put it? We're probably not going to put it in Morpeth, right? That's got to be discussed. I would assume it's going to go
Morpeth.
in.
Michael, you tried to eat up 20 seconds. I think we're at about 190 seconds.
Okay, thank you. I'm done.
Good. Clara, you jumped in there quickly, so
I just wanna-
he's ate up some of your time. Go.
Important that the Sportsplex is wonderful, but we have 2 arenas that I know of that are completely underutilized. And those people are driving outside of our municipality because they can drive there and pay the fine, or pay the fee there, and still have money to burn. But our arenas don't get used. So why are our arenas not getting used? I want to know that. I want to know if somebody asked that or how they're. And before you build a new sportsplex, what's going to happen to these arenas out in the communities, and they're integral parts of their communities? Could there be more? Could we put? I've had 2 teachers ask me, why isn't the library open on Sundays? Well, and why can't it be attached to another municipal center like an arena? Because you already have people there. You don't have to pay janitors and extra staff.
Yep.
Attach it. You've got kids and people.
All
That's
right.
one idea. So
Penelope, 90-ish seconds.
Yes,
You don't have to talk about the sportsplex.
Oh, I don't.
You can talk about whatever you want.
Okay, well, I already talked about, I think we should freeze the tax for 3 or 4 years. So definitely an arena probably would not be on my agenda. Like I say, I'm about protecting our water bills too. I'm talking to people like in a family of 4 or 5, we're talking about 150, 175 for water alone. That's full of chlorine as well, but I won't go there. And my third thing, that is true. My third thing is to, like I say, direct administration and give and ask for accountability and transparency. Thank you.
Brian, you want to go?
There's going to be a great change in the council. There will be at least 7 new members. Some of the old guys might get beat. Why am I? I'm getting a reflection. I'm getting a reflection back from Bondi. But I have all kinds of things that I would love to discuss, certainly with Penelope, because I've been on the PUC for 20 years, and the water bill has not gone up 57%. I will challenge you. Wrong.
I did it again this
Anyway,
morning, so I'm sure.
wrong. But I'm not going to argue with her. This is not the place to, but I am looking forward. I'm hoping I'm lucky enough to get reelected. Because certainly with the changes that are going to take place in council. And I think any of the new members of council will find that administration is very open for discussion from the members of the elected councillors. And I think Councillor Bondi would agree with me that they do listen. And that we are open.
They
to that.
listen.
Awesome. Okay, before we wrap it up with Art, I just want to say thanks to Konstantino's for being our main sponsor, the
Yes.
10-7 Cafe for allowing us to have this great venue,
Yes.
Yep.
Matt
Here,
and
here.
Chris behind the tech thing, our media people here who are going to put out our own newsletter because you don't see any other media people here. I'm looking and nope, nobody showed up. But it's great discussion. I hope you guys are liking it, and I hope people are sharing it and liking it online. Art, go for it. Wrap it up.
Very quickly, 2 priorities for me. One is I think we need to, and I think this is something the next council needs to address immediately, and that is the water situation in North Kent. I think we need to work with the province and come up with some kind of integrated strategy that helps those people deal with that issue. I think there is some moral obligation on behalf of the municipality to do that. I think the developer needs to be very much involved in that. The other thing is, I think what we really need, and we've skirted it a couple times here in this conversation, we don't have a youth strategy. I see a whole lot of exercises this way, that way about youth. We've got crime that is directly affecting our youth. Even something as simple as the rash of bicycle thefts probably hurts our youth more proportionately than a lot of other parts of our community. We don't have good entrepreneurship or small business support programs for our youth. We have some. I don't think they're good enough. We don't have the kinds of recreational opportunities that we really need in this community. And we've talked about the theater, we've talked about the sportsplex. We need to do better to keep our young people active, keep our young people engaged, keep our young people feeling good about being part of Chatham-Kent, and ultimately, perhaps more of them would come back and spend their lives and raise their families and build their careers here. Because right now, most careers you can do from just about anywhere. We just don't have the infrastructure, dedicated infrastructure that we need to deal with this growing youth issue. And I hear us talk about a lot of things, but it all hinges on our youth ultimately. I've got young children, I've got young grandchildren in this community. I think we need to perhaps have a more integrated look at offering trades education in this community. I think there's a tremendous number of young people that are being left behind, and we've got a huge trade skills deficit in this community. You know, so I think youth is one of those things that a lot of candidates, a lot of counselors don't talk about tremendously, or they do it in a lip service sort of way. And I think that's something that we need to really spend a lot of time, and the new council should spend some time making sure that we've got the infrastructure in place. Some of that includes private investment. We don't have an arcade. You know, we've still got people driving kids out of town for an arcade. Something as simple. There's got to be some means by which a private investor could work with perhaps a private public
12
partnership
seconds.
and do something. So anyways, I'm rambling, but I see that there are so many opportunities to develop youth programming in this community, and we are failing our youth terribly.
Good stuff. Okay, so we're going to take a small break. We're going to have The Universe featuring Ray come back on for 2 tunes, and then we're going to come back with the next roundtable. So give these guys a round of applause here. They did awesome.
Give Ben a round of applause. Thank you.
All right.
I was the youth apprenticeship coordinator for 8 years.
Cause I'ma be a while, and I'll take my time till I'm dead and gone. If you read the sign, it says I won't be long. My intention's good, so I'm innocent. It's not over. These things I believe are part of my identity. I'm desperate, I'm always late, rushing around, forgot my papers. Desperate, I'm always late, rushing around, forgot my papers. Desperate, they call me scatterbrain. Sorry, sir, but I don't remember your name. I'm desperate, I'm always late. Hand it in after the date is due, so I stay up all night to write a new excuse. Try to be on time, I even plan ahead, and I hit the snooze and choose to sleep instead. I procrastinate till I'm overwhelmed, and I can't commit because I'm scared as hell. I know I got problems, but I'm over it. It's not up to me. It runs in my family. I'm desperate, I'm always late, rushing around, forgot my papers. Desperate, I'm always late, rushing around, forgot my papers. Desperate, they call me scatterbrain. Sorry, sir, but I don't remember your name. I'm desperate, I'm always late. The things I repeat subconsciously, the mantras I recite, all of Loveless, lifeless, I'm impartial. Don't care if you're dead and gone. We don't wife this life in crisis. Skeletons in the closet, come on down. Take the truth, but you can't swallow. Loveless, lifeless, I'm impartial. Don't care if you're dead and gone. We don't wife this life in crisis. Skeletons in the closet, come on down. Take the truth, but you can't swallow. You're so astonishing, make me so many promises. You're so astonishing, make me so many promises. My lucky number. My lucky number. My lucky number. My lucky number. I leave trails to make you follow. I leave fate to lead you home. Others say if that reminds me that you still never did me no wrong. Where I lead you, you will follow. I leave trails to make you follow. I leave fate to lead you home. Others say if that reminds me that you still never did me no wrong. Where I lead you, you will follow. You're so astonishing, make me so many promises. You're so astonishing, make me so many promises. My lucky number. My lucky number. My lucky number. My lucky number. We are so lazy. Got more regard for our phones than our babies. We just multiply through the bend and relax. We are bored, self-assured. So we are so stupid. We bitch and moan, but it doesn't do this. We get good advice in one ear and out the other side. And we wonder why. And oh, we think we're so special that we're the cause of all the attention. Who even asked for my opinion? Anyway, we are so confined, unconscious as the blind leading the blind. We've become so attached to our pain and the past, the shame inside our lives. So we are so wasted. lawyers, kids in basements. Wages pass the time like cattle in a line to our demise. Then we act surprised and we eat it anyway. Oh, we think we're so special that we're the cause of all the attention. Who even asked for my opinion anyway? We need to agree that we are where the front line. We manipulate and change, rearrange till we're satisfied. What's grown ain't known to us. We think we don't decide. And oh, we think we're so special that we're the cause of all the attention. Who even asked for my opinion anyway?
Hey guys, we are back with our second roundtable session. We have Larry Valenga, Marianne Udavari, Amy Dalton, Patricia Sylvain, who goes by Pat sometimes, and Steve Pinsnow. And I want to say thank you again to Konstantinos. Thank you to the 107 Cafe, where we are broadcasting live from, to the people in the audience, and for you guys for like kind of putting yourselves out here, because this isn't that easy. So as you guys know, I put out a topic. The discussion is open. They can cut in, they can cut people off if they want, although we like to do that respectfully. But if you got a point, bring that across. So I was just out in the crowd here, and we had one person, I'm going to name him, Derek Robertson, so if you guys want to blame him after. The topic is, what does success look like to you for council? Okay, well, we'll start with Steve.
Success is where the municipality actually prospers. You have more industry coming in. You have a more of an influx of entrepreneurship, which really does seem to be driving our whole commercial side of it. The big factories aren't coming, whereas the smaller businesses are, and they're multiplying. And right now the economy is good, and that's a breeding ground for that. But if the municipality is prospering, you have we have a little bit of work to do on our EMS service to get it to where it needs to be. But obviously, healthcare is a big part of keeping our municipality healthy, and our infrastructure. Our infrastructure right now, we're underfunded. One of the number one complaints I get is that the roads are terrible, and not just my ward, pretty near everywhere you go. But there's only so much money to go around, and that's the sad part. And I think this next term of council, they really do need to address that by putting more money towards that. But as far as, success means where you can live comfortably, affordable. Let's face it, Chatham-Kent has one of the best playgrounds in the world. You have Lake St. Clair on one side, Lake Erie on the other. I am a boater, and you know what? It's unlimited what you can do. Now there's hiking trails. There's honestly, for somebody that's retiring, this has to be heaven. And we live here. We do this every day. But I think success is to make our municipality healthy, live within our means, because that's what you have to do. And and I think we're slowly getting there. But success to me just means things are going smooth.
You covered a lot. You really don't leave too much for anybody else. Okay, so who's tackling that second?
I think too that success looks like fewer people on social assistance, more pride in the community, instilling pride in our youth too, so that, when I drive around, I see a lot of garbage around, and that just means that people are not proud of where they are and who they are actually. So I like to instill that community spirit in people, and again, reduce people that are on social assistance, to provide opportunities for them to get to work, to enjoy work, to feel proud of themselves. Again, that just is a big circle of being a better community as well.
Take it away, anybody.
I think it all centers around growth. I mean, you look around, Windsor's growing, London's growing, TO is just exploding. There are cranes everywhere. And here we are in Chatham, and I see a few houses going up in the northwest corner, but that's about it. And you're right, the big factories aren't coming. And if they were, it's the province and the feds that are going to tell you they're coming, and they're going to tell you exactly what you're going to do for them when they get here. But we got to start supporting our small businesses. That's where it's going to grow. We have to focus on that, and that takes care of a lot of the ills. I hear it at the doors about taxes being sky high. They're going to continue to be sky high until we start to grow. And same with opportunities for the youth. It's all about growth. Taking care of the people that are on social assistance. It's growth. Grow those internal jobs and a lot of the different things that help those out. I talk about sports tourism. Well, that's your cue for the for your new facility, Ben.
Sports complex.
But that's part of it. I mean, look at the facility in Lakeshore. It's gorgeous. You know, so let's get our provincial and federal counterparts, show us the money, and get that $50 million unit here, and may cost us 17, but they bring in tons of people, and those people are coming off the 401 with, you know, pockets full of money. But right now they're just driving by. They don't even see a building till they get to Tilbury, and by then it's too late. You're already out of Chatham-Kent if you're heading west. So I think that's where it starts.
Well, I agree with that we definitely have to start looking at things for younger people to stay here and want to have their lives here. And part of that is that we need to engage them more, to ask them what they want. You hear a lot about people that want to always say they want jobs, they want these certain things, but a lot of times, like you said, what they want is entertainment. They want to be entertained, they want to feel that things are going to happen. They want to stay in their small communities. And success means that we have to start looking more like a community. We need to start looking more like Chatham-Kent. You know, I'm sure all of us, as we sit in our own wards, everybody's saying to each other, well, you know, I want this for Ward 2, we want this for Ward 4. We have to try to, you know, start being unified together to present that to the rest of Ontario, to bring that here. And as a small business person, I will say that we need youth because we need employees. So, yes.
I do agree with Amy. What she has said is, as far as a community and the success of a community, I feel it's almost like your success of your family. What things would you like to have for your family? So definitely you would like jobs. You'd like to be able to prosper with your family. You'd like to have a place to go, to have fun. So lots of recreational opportunities, which we do have that throughout the municipality. We certainly are not lacking for that. Also, education, that's very, very important. So we need a means to educate our children and ourselves. It's always nice to have opportunities at any age to learn new things, and that's always welcome. Also, just things that you're able to do with your family. Go out and about, appreciate all of the wonderful things that we have in this community. So, and of course, to have a vibrant economy, you want to make sure that where you are living and what you're contributing to has a means of being successful. So that sort of thing, with your family, you want the best things for it, and with your community, you want the best things for it as well.
Is there anything we can do to actually tell people on what we can take action on? Like, you were talking a little bit about entrepreneurship, you're talking about small business and recreational, you know, opportunities. Is there anything specifically that you can tell people that you can do, right? How do you go about it?
Right now, they started this program this summer. The administration and council give them the go-ahead. They, you know, they're allowing people so much money to start up a business, because honestly, you do want to catch them at a young age. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, and some will fail, some, you know, and some will be successful. But honestly, by putting that out to the youth, I think, you know, it's going to grow from there. And even if it's only for this summer right now, that seed's been planted. At some point in time, in their life, they're going to go that route. And right now, I think part of the problem with, and in this municipality, we're very fortunate. We have two post-secondary facilities. But the kids, they go to school, they come out, they can't find jobs. And which is a big part of the reason why they're leaving the community. But you know what? You plant the seeds for, the entrepreneurship, and I think that'll grow. It was mentioned earlier about the tradespeople. Well, I'm in the trades. I have 3 different licenses. And the kids today, it's a struggle to get them into it. Now, I have two young fellas that work for me, and they're both good. They're going down the right path, but it's a struggle to find people that want to do that. I'll tell you, in 10 years from now, tradespeople will be able to choose how much money they want to make and choose where they want to work, because we are going to be that short.
You'll be paying a tradesperson what you're paying a doctor today.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite that much.
I've got
but
438 tradespeople, and I lost 10 in the first quarter alone.
Yeah.
And the average age is 52 to 55, depending on the trade.
Yeah.
And,
We've got to start instilling that trade mentality in grade 8, grade 7, grade 8, before they get into grade 11, grade 12. We've got to make sure that if they have some sort of skill and ability, and they look like they're going to be good at electronics or being a carpenter or a plumber, let's help those students get into a program much easier than what is happening now. They go to university and then they come back and then they can't find a job, and then they figure, okay, now I have to go to college and find something more practical to do.
And they do.
Yeah, both teachers and parents have a role to play in that, because, it's nice to offer the opportunities to your children, and as you say, they may have a certain education and then choose to do something else after, but we need to have those opportunities where they're able to either check into the trades, see if they like them. I noticed on television just a few months ago that they were showing where women and girls were starting to get into these trades, and they had these certain programs where they were encouraging young women to get into these, and it was really kind of interesting to watch. But girls can do things as well as men, so might as well.
And maybe in high school, this is, like you said, maybe after grade 10, maybe there should be programs that kids don't have to always go to college to start their trade, career. Because a lot of kids, like electricians and all that, they have to go to college after, go back. Way back when, I think that we all know that there were always a lot of programs in high school. There was mechanics, and I think John McGregor has tool and die. I think there's all those kinds of things. But maybe that they should be scooped up earlier, 16, 17, 18, and not always that it has to be always about going away and coming back. Because everybody's going to need assistance, like plumbers, electricians. They are all going to need a group. So that's a good place to start, is to catch them at 16, 15 or 16.
Yep.
You know.
And they don't want to learn about Romeo and Juliet.
Exactly.
Right? They want to use their hands. A lot of the kids these days want to manipulate things and not read about Romeo and Juliet. So we really need to
show them their success right then. Like, get them, and they're still energetic.
Oh, yeah,
Fairness to the high schools, the guidance counselors, they are actually quite good at zeroing in on which students are university material, which ones are college material, and which ones should go into the trades. And they really do what they can to try to steer them in that direction, because they know it's maybe not as high a marks, or they just don't have what it takes to do the whole post-secondary school. But as you said, you get in, you do your first year of your apprenticeship, and then you go off to college for a couple of months, and then so it's broken up. And I think there are a certain group of people who are totally cut out for it. But the guidance counselors, I think they try to steer the kids where they're supposed to go, and I'm sure they do get it wrong on some cases, but at the high school level, they are trying to do that.
It makes it more affordable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and years ago.
Don't confuse trades now, though, with somebody walking around with a screwdriver in their hand.
No.
Because, trust me, some of the machines that are out there today, 5-axis CNCs, you pretty much have to be a computer programmer.
Oh, yeah.
And an electrician today with the robotics and the ladder logic, It's not simple like it used to be where you had a bunch of relays. It's a very complicated process. So, you know, they're equivalent to university-educated people to become a tradesperson.
Years ago in high school, we were only allowed to take home ec. So looking back now, I think, well, it would have been really nice had we been able to take like woodworking or some sort of shop or something. We were farmers, so yes, you learned a little bit of this and a little bit of that on the farm. But it would have been really nice to take woodworking. I guess now at this point, if I'm interested, I'd take it on my own. But yeah, I didn't see any men or boys in school taking the home ec program. I don't know what they do now or if they're allowed to.
I took cooking courses for
Did
like
you?
2 semesters.
Good for
Every
you.
time there was a cooking course.
Yep.
Good for you.
They were the easiest. That's probably why.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely. And I'll bet
typing.
you're a fantastic
Yes.
cook
I
today.
took typing in grade 9 as a way to meet girls.
Yes. Well,
But you know what? It's
see?
the only thing in my life that I use every day.
Exactly.
So let me throw this out there. I mean, because I look at growth as new money coming in. We can talk all we want about the base economy of Chatham-Kent. But until we can get that new money coming in from all those people up and down the 401, and you may bring that one person in that attends a festival or something and says, this is a great place to relocate my business. And that person might have anywhere from 10 to 50 employees. You know, I've talked to a number of people about Charing Cross Road, because that's the straight shot right into the belly of the municipality. And until we start doing something, because people don't want that 10-kilometer drive coming from Communication Road and then all the way through Park Ave just to get to downtown. They don't. And I understand the people that live on Charing Cross Road, beautiful homes. You could probably put a load restriction on there so you don't have the big trucks coming in, but we gotta start getting the people off that highway and into our community. And go the other way, go south. Charing Cross, Cedar Springs, all the orchards, Blenheim, Erie O. Look at all the things that we can do there. Those people are just looking for places to spend money, so let's make it Chatham-Kent.
The problem is, though, the province has control of what exits come off of that 401, and I'm not sure they're quite ready to spend millions of dollars to put an interchange in there.
They're
So-
close. I talked to them the other day.
But that's
They're very
part of the
close.
fight, right? You,
It certainly is. It certainly is. But you know something? I would rather spend $5 million on an interchange than spend $5 million on a railroad to nowhere,
I'm not gonna argue that.
right? So let's get going here. We're either gonna do it or we're gonna stay the way we are.
I guess as a new council, we could discuss that, if that was to be, so. I know it's been brought up
Yeah.
for years now,
For
so.
years, yeah.
Yeah.
That's been a, you know, I guess the joke is if you're in one part of town trying to explain to a person how to get to Wallaceburg, it'd be like, yeah, instead of one straight road.
Part of the problem I see with that, though, and just being devil's advocate, it's gonna cost more than $5 million to start with.
Yep, okay.
But we have so many roads that are underfunded now, it's really hard when you're sitting around as a collective group to spend millions of dollars to put in an interchange, when you have so many roads that need to be fixed. That money can go elsewhere for bridges. We have the most bridges than anywhere in Ontario, in our municipality. It's really hard to say, okay, you take that to council, we're gonna, you know, dedicate 10 million, whatever it is, I don't know what the number is, to put in an interchange when we're driving on roads that are you know, shaking our vehicles apart. And like, to me, that's a really hard call to make.
Well,
Like,
bad
it's
roads-
an easy call for me.
The bad roads
I'm
is
gonna
not
fix my
just a
roads.
Chatham-Kent thing, trust me. I put
No.
160 kilometers a day and Windsor's roads are just as bad. In
I'm
some
not arguing
cases
that.
worse.
I'm just saying, it's
So,
hard to dedicate
yeah.
money to
I hear you, but
something.
if we do the same that we've been doing all along, then we're gonna get the same result. Right? So we gotta start thinking out of the box here and doing something different. And maybe that's different, maybe that's not the answer, but we gotta start thinking differently, thinking collectively, what can we do? And this is everybody, 17 plus the mayor, what can we do differently? What can we do to help ourselves?
We're fortunate right now, our economy is decent, and there are some houses going up, but we don't have that assessment growth that we need, which you're saying, and we've lost a lot of our industrial tax base over the probably last 15 years, And that does make it more challenging, because when that tax money's not coming out of the industrial base, it has to be spread out over the others, being commercial and residential. So then, everybody else feels the burden. Now, when we grow, it has the reverse. When you have the assessment growth, it just eases the burden on everybody else. But it is a challenge, and we're a small community. Unfortunately, we're becoming a bedroom community. The East Kent, which I represent, you're seeing in every one of the communities, you're seeing people coming from the GTA area. They're selling their houses down there for $1 to $2 million. They're coming down here and they're buying a beautiful home for a couple $100,000, maybe $300,000. They're putting money in the bank, and they are living the life of Riley for their retirement. And unfortunately, that's what we're drawing in. We have a beautiful community here. As I said earlier, with the lakes and everything, we've got everything here. And the people from the GTA are starting to capitalize on that.
But a retirement area is not sustainable.
No, well,
No.
It's
to a
not.
degree it is, but you still have to have your industry. Like the rural areas, the Thamesvilles, the Bothwells of the world, Dresden's got some industry over there, but those smaller communities are never going to get the factories, because they're going to go to the ridge towns or the Chatham or the Tilbury, Dresden even. So what's wrong with them being bedroom communities? Long as there's new houses going up in Thamesville, there's new houses going up in Bothwell, which is great, because that assessment growth is growing. But as far as industry going there, it's not going to anyway. So it's good to see growth in some form.
No, I was just going to say, why do you not think that there would be more industry? I'm in the automotive industry, and everybody just thinks that's the awfulest thing. But honestly, we live on the automotive corridor, so we have to not think that we'll do that. And as far as an age-friendly, that's what it's called. That's what they like to call it, the age-friendly community. Eventually, those people will go back to where their families are. So then you'll have like a certain kind of home that's going to have to be sold to families. So right now, in Chatham, you'd see a lot of those condominium type houses in a row. Well, who will buy those after these people who are here now?
Baby boomers are gone.
Well, after these people leave, but will the people still stay here? Will they, to get baby boomers, the next generation of baby boomers, we got to get these young people back here to stay.
Oh, I agree with that.
Yeah.
How do we get those young people back? You got the secret?
There's no secret. We just got to.
Amenities, like
We
we
have
talked
to.
about
Yeah,
before,
we really
amenities.
have to ask them what they want, what's important to them. Their schools are, if they're going to be in a small town, they want all the small town things. They want the schools, they want their arenas, they want to come home to have the things that they did when they were growing up. It's very nostalgic, I think, for a lot of people when they come back home.
Or you can say something?
Well, the amenities, so the sports complex, for example, or
Great idea.
the rail trail to be a trail, an actual trail, because you might think that we have it all in Chatham-Kent, but I travel a lot through Ontario, and we really don't have it all in Chatham-Kent. We don't have a long trail system that actually matches up to another trail. We have short trails that go nowhere. So if you're a long-distance runner or a cyclist, you're not going to be interested in coming to Chatham-Kent. You would if you were a boater. That would be great, but it costs a lot of money to own a boat. It doesn't cost a lot of money to buy a pair of running shoes or a bicycle and get some good fitness.
So we could tag on that and have our own triathlon or Ironman, because I did talk to a person that does that all the time. And we've got Lake St. Clair, which would be great for the swim. We've got all kinds of county roads that would be great for the cycling, and Ben could take care of the marathon part, right?
Well, actually, she is a two-time
Two-time?
runner.
Oh,
Yeah.
Congratulations,
two-time
yeah.
marathon.
So, that's how we utilize what we have, what nature provided for us. And boating, well, that's a natural.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of other opportunities.
And you have these amenities. You also have people who are fitter, healthier, less taxing on the healthcare system, right? Mental health gets better. When you get out and get fresh air, there's so many good things that happen to you mentally, spiritually, physically. that we need to promote that in Chatham-Kent to have a healthier society. And then I think some of the younger people will stay. Other people will be interested in moving to Chatham-Kent because we have those amenities.
So let me throw one out, because I've done a lot of work with a lot of people that live on the street. And there are a lot of mental health issues with people
Yes.
on the street.
Yep.
Some of them because of drug use.
Yep.
So what do we do to help those people as a council?
Oh, I think that's a challenge. Like honestly,
It certainly is.
and
Absolutely.
You're speaking the truth. It's out there, and it's probably a bigger issue than the general population actually realizes. And you know what? I don't know of a magic wand that's going to make that one better. It's one of those things that they run their gauntlet through the health system. The problem is they will be on medication, get off medication, and truly it's a bigger issue than people know about. And I really don't know what the answer to that one is. It is a challenge, and I don't think Chatham-Kent's alone in that one. I think that's a challenge right across, the
So-
province and the country.
Yeah, so throwing something out there, do we create some sort of, like, I know one candidate for mayor's been talking the small housing, but I'm talking more controlled for those that are on the street, so that they're not on the street at night. And maybe we can talk to them enough where we can get them help, because I read in the paper or online of, a certain individual, and they keep offering help and he keeps refusing. And they can't force him to seek help.
But I guess that's where I was going with that.
Yeah.
And it is a challenge, and it's, everybody has their own human rights, and there is no magic wand that's going to fix that one. And it's a challenge, like I said, all the way across the country, probably across North America.
Yeah, we're
Well,
in crisis.
absolutely.
We're in crisis for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
Sadly enough.
and the next step is, after that, when they do get to that point where they're, where they're recuperating, where they're, they're through their rehab, there should be programs for people to hire them that can work around their schedule with doctor's appointments and things like that, because, they need to feel that they can be a useful
Yeah.
part of society again. So,
Skills training.
skills training for sure. Because they can do it.
Awesome stuff. Okay, so we were talking about the rail line for a couple seconds there. How do we go about making that a trail? How do we actually do it?
Well, I mean, we get Mike Bondi, he was standing there, he was gonna lift the rail, so let's face it, folks, we're gonna lose our shirts on this railroad line, because that iron's worth 6 cents a pound, it's gonna cost you 20 cents a pound to lift it out of there. The gravel's worth more. We could name it the Ben Labadie 26-mile trail.
Well, Great
and,
Ontario Marathon Trail. would
Yeah,
work.
we could, and then get Ben to sponsor up on it to help pay to clear it out.
I'll tell you, my very first closed session meeting 12 years ago when I got elected, that was our topic,
Really?
was that railroad. And back then I didn't support it. I never supported anything all the way through. And you know what? I really wish I had been wrong on it. That fertilizer plant would have come and
Yeah.
everything. I would have had egg on my face, and that would have been good. But you know what?
Yep.
But now you're exactly right. We're at the point we gotta do what we gotta do.
Bite the bullet.
I think because it is such a good corridor for running utilities down or whatever, and it will end up being a trail likely, because we do own the property. But we do gotta get rid of the ballast. We gotta get rid of the steel, and we gotta get what we can for it. And I'm not saying we fire sale it, but we get what we can. And according to them, some of this track's still good, and hopefully there's somebody out there in the bigger rails that needs it. But I'm not really going to hold my breath on that one either. But all said and done, you know what? We need to move on to the next phase, which means getting rid of what's there. I think we're always going to keep the property though.
Yeah.
And
But
need
when we
to
do
work-
trails, we have to start looking where they go. We've got a trail going up on the west side, it's gonna go to the Prairie Siding Bridge, cross the bridge and come back. Well, not everybody's gonna be able to go that full route, so what do? They go 7 kilometers down the road and turn around?
See, I didn't
Right.
support that one either,
Well,
because that one, to me,
It is
one of
what
the
it
biggest
is.
wastes of money I've
But
seen.
my
in a
question's
long
always been,
time.
why didn't we throw some destinations in there? Why didn't we make a right-hand turn on Winter Line and there's Pancor there? You could stop at the
Well, that was
at
part
the
of the
CT and have a
original
meal
plan.
and maybe a beer, right? Or
That was part of the original plan that got kiboshed somewhere along the line.
Yeah, but the total price tag is up over $5 million. Like, really? I don't get that one at all, but anyhow.
well, I mean, I live right across the road from what's been done, and I'm here to tell you, somebody's going to get seriously injured the way that thing's laid out. I watch people coming out of those condo units, and they are so used to stopping at the road. That track is a good 20, 25 feet inside of the road. They're not used to that. And there's a lot of people biking and walking on that.
Which
A
is
lot
a
of
good
concern.
sign.
A lot of
Oh,
concern.
yeah.
Speed
from
bumps.
people. Yeah.
All
and
right.
New signage.
Overall.
You want to say? You can go. You can talk more.
Speed bumps and new signage, right? That's, it's logical to me.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to be wrapping this up really quickly here. We're going to go around the table in a couple seconds, but I want to say thank you to the 107 Cafe for letting us be here, and Konstantino is our main sponsor, and the people helping out making this thing happen. So we got 90-ish seconds. I'm counting in my head sometimes. So who wants to start off? And you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. And if you can't come up with something that you want to talk about, you got to talk about the Sportsplex. So it's up to you. But you don't have to talk about the Sportsplex. Who wants to go first?
I can.
Go ahead, Steve.
Well, as it was said earlier, I think that there is going to be a totally new dynamic to this new council. I think you need to keep some experience there. And I've got 12 years there. It is a $300 million budget that you're dealing with. And, you know, I've proven leadership. I think that, you know, my fiscal responsibility has, my track record for that has proven itself over the years. And honestly, you know, I think that going forward that we do need a little bit of experience along with, because there is going to be a lot of new people. And I think the veterans can show the rookies, you know, the ropes. And anyway, I'm hoping I'm back here again to have this conversation in 4 years.
Good stuff.
I'll go next.
All right.
Yeah, my biggest concern is our infrastructure, particularly our bridge and drainage systems, pumping schemes. We have to spend multi-million dollars to bring our bridges back up to par. And I think we really, really have to turn over every stone and look at where we can save money, look at every single job in the municipality where we've hired people, make sure we're not duplicating services, make sure we streamline all of our processes so that when people come to the municipality because they want to open up a new business, that they're dealing with one person who gives them the red carpet treatment so that we open up those doors. We're open for business. We need to really, really sharpen up our pencils on where we're spending our money because infrastructure is key to making our economy grow.
Going in a row?
Take
Is that
charge.
Is that what we're doing? Okay. Well, I'm kind of going to piggyback on what Art was saying earlier, that we really do need to grow our communities through bringing young people here and bringing work here. And we have to start thinking different ways of how we're going to do this. It might be outside partnerships. We didn't talk about farming, but I know farmers, and like a lot of people that have businesses and are facing this, is they're facing the fact that there is no cessation plan. So we need to start thinking about bringing people in and finding new ways to keep the businesses that we have sustainable and grow them. And once we have all these lovely taxes, then we can do all these great things, these fun things.
Awesome.
Yep.
I agree with everything that everyone said. I also would like to discuss vibrant downtowns and vibrant communities. So through BIAs, and most of our communities do have BIAs, so that is the Business Improvement Associations, and we have so many volunteers and business people who sit on those different boards, and they make sure and at least try to ensure that our downtown communities are vibrant. So when you go downtown and you look and you see the different storefronts that are there, that businesses are there and they are making money and very, very happy. And that also creates a vibrant community. So when you have a really vibrant downtown, you have different people, places to go. It kind of makes you very proud that to call that your part of your community as well. So I think if we can work on that, of course, that would generate new business. Lots of times it's a wonderful opportunity, as you say, we were discussing earlier. People like to at least maybe start a new business or have an opportunity or learn. Even if you are very young and you start a business, you may not succeed in that initially, but perhaps you have learned things to follow through in other places and other jobs that you may attend or work at, and you'll be able to bring that as well. So yes, vibrant downtowns and vibrant communities.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up with Larry in a second, but again, thank you to Konstantino's for giving us a great sponsor, 107 Cafe, all the people working here, you in the crowd. These guys have been great. It's tough and nervous sometimes being up here, but we're going to wrap it up, and we're going to have the Universe featuring Ray come on one more time after this, and we will wrap it up with Larry.
Okay, so like I had said earlier, it's all about growth because I really love this community. I mean, I stuck around 25 years ago when I got hired at Ford Motor Company, and I don't regret 1 minute of it. But I really believe that we have to start doing things differently, and we need that new money for small business. And you know, I talk about sports tourism, and everybody says, "Well, that'll create minimum wage jobs." Absolutely. And guess what? Those people with those minimum wage jobs maybe at some point in time can afford a home. They might need a new roof for that home or an air conditioner for that home, and it just keeps growing. But it's got to be new money. We can't rely on our base economy much longer because it's just holding us. You know, it's not sustainable. So as far as the election, I mean, I bring a different set of tools to the table. You know, I'm a manager at Ford Motor Company in maintenance, and you know, a lot of responsibility. I'm used to dealing in big budgets, so when Dougie earlier was talking about 300 million, that's a drop in the bucket. So.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and that is a wrap. And the Universe featuring Ray is coming on for one more time here. Thank you, and hit that share button.
We go to church on the weekends. We like to drink the whiskey sometimes before we go. I got a bottle in my purse and I'm gonna drink it first. I got a little black book and I'm gonna write everything, all the words. I got a bottle of whiskey in my purse. No, there's not enough for me. No, not enough for you. Well, I said I'd make it there. Sometimes I wish that I could even find the time when I corner of the couch. Hey, 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 hey. No means no fail. Gave him a tree last night and it won't go away. Said in the meantime, Daddy's no for show. Black dog is got no man inside my door. Do I love, do I love, do I love to love myself? Do I take it in a pound, do I come back to the rescue of my health? Said nobody's got no meaning tonight. Yeah. I got a black doggy in my door, it's hanging outside. Well, I meant to when I said that. It's not the problem that I expect. If I got a hand in it, I got a hand in it, that's fine. So I'll post these posters all over town. Don't pray to find your best friend in time. But I represent populations because I want to. I wipe the seat before I step because I have to. I lick my lips so I conceal the things I need to. I whip that ball so far if I can keep it on a leash and chain it up in the air. I would love it, do it, love it, do it, love it, love myself. So we'll take it to the ground, do it, come back to the rescue of my health. Said nobody's got one meaning tonight. Yeah. I got a black doggy in my door. Said it's playing give me my more. Do I love, do I love, do I love, and love myself. So we'll take it to the ground, do it, come back to the rescue of my health. Said nobody's got one meaning tonight. Yeah. I got a black doggy in my door, it's hanging outside. I used to think I knew better. I used to think I was right and they were wrong. I used to think, woke on the wrong side of the bed. Now I know the power of the thoughts I think in my head. So I choose wisely, I choose wisely. I choose love, choose respect. I close my eyes, see through yours instead. 'Cause the power is ours, so connect the charge. 'Cause positivity's my superpower. Ah, superpower. Ah, superpower. We keep the charge, we know the secret. We spread the love across channel camps. I used to think that mine was the right perspective. Then I learned we are all living different lives. Now that you see my way, I try to find new ways to relate, and I see love spread far and widely. I try to stop and pay attention to what I feel and my true intentions. An act of self-love and it sends a charge. Positivity's my superpower. Ah, superpower. Ah, superpower. We keep the charge, we know the secret. We spread the love across shadow cans. Superpower. 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 through shitstorms, hell or high water. That's my paradise. So take it in. 'Cause this life is wilder. Unpicked petals and meadows for miles and miles. Oh, baby child, let it roll along in this righteous way. Lead the way. Hey! These crow's feet lines up mark the times I don't mind. Needed a way to measure, so close your eyes and drift away. 'Cause you've got the timer. The weight of the world just floats like a feather, so wave goodbye and let it float along in this righteous way. Lead the way. Hey! It's all good, so let it go. Wheels will crash, the flowers will bloom, the fire will burn, the wind will blow. All of the ice, all of the feather in the sky. Waving goodbye. It's all good, so let it go. You're a survivor. I'll lead you through shitstorms, hell or high water. That's my paradise. So take it in. 'Cause you've got the timer. The weight of the world just flows like a feather. So wave goodbye and let it float along in this righteous way. Lead the way. Wave goodbye.
Welcome back to another roundtable discussion. We have Henry Savek, we got Gordon Thomas, Karen Kirkwood-White, Mark Pistorius, John Wright, and Stephen Scott. Now the delay was everybody just received a alert on their phone, so we delayed the live for a second. So we are back now. I want to give a big thank you to our performer tonight, the artist The Universe featuring Ray. She was amazing. Okay. As well, I want to give a big thank you to our main sponsor, Konstantino's, the 10-7 Cafe, for allowing us to have this great venue, to Chris and Matt behind the scenes doing great work to make this all come alive, live. And then we got our writers, Chris Glassford and Ali Robinson. And they are going to be doing some great writing for us so that we can put this into a newsletter and get this out to the senior population in the near future in the next couple days. So they got some fast writing they have to do, but no pressure. Okay, so we don't have any incumbents here. We did have one person drop out, and we found two more. So we found Henry and Karen to come back on. They have been on here before, and we got some new people here. But we're going to do something a little bit different because there's no incumbents. I'm going to just point at somebody, and then they're going to start talking about a topic that they're passionate about, and then we're going to go from there. So, Gordon, you're the youngest. Let's go.
Okay. So, as the youngest, then, I actually kind of want to revisit a topic that we just briefly talked about in the last one, but I think connects to some of the other stuff that's been brought up. So, we were talking about attracting youth to Chatham. Well, of all the candidates who are here, I think maybe I fit in that category.
Okay.
I think that one of the things that we ought to remember is if we're going to be thinking about building a community that's going to be attracting youth, We also want to talk about how do we retain people who are already here. And I think the important thing that we're missing is who are you going to talk to find that out? And I think having a conversation between 17 councillors and a mayor isn't going to achieve that. And ideally what we want to do is we want to actually talk to the people that we're trying to bring to Chatham and talk to the people that we're trying to retain in Chatham. So if we're going to talk about youth retention, who are you going to talk to? You're going to talk to the youth. And I think one of the important things that wasn't brought up, but I kind of wanted to bring to the table and see what anybody else thought about it was, I came to Chatham, Kent. My wife and I, we moved down here 2 years ago. And the reason why we moved down, there were two main ones. One was cost of living. It's affordable to live in Chatham, Kent. I know that taxes are high, but for a young couple starting out, looking to start a family, we can actually afford to purchase a house down here. The second thing is quality of life. So we can actually get out, we can meet people, we can talk to people. There is community, there's lots of community events. We've got 6 wards that covers a really large territory, and there's lots to see and do. So for us, that's why we came. Now, I'm curious, we can talk to some of the others, hear what they've thought, but I think that that ought to be a priority moving forwards for the municipality, and I think that we should bring that to everybody's attention, that if you want to know why or what's going to attract people to Chatham and what's going to keep people in Chatham, you should be talking to them, not people who are already here and who have been living here for a very long time.
The youth today is probably leaving because of the wages they're getting paid in the area. That's probably the number one reason the youth today is leaving the area. Without good paying jobs here, they're not going to stay. They're going to go where the money is. And that's been over the years. I've watched it. They've left because of the money.
I believe we need to attract more tech jobs because that's what most youth are in.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think.
I just
higher
gonna say
paying jobs.
priorities. I don't know how you get anything done with 17 councillors.
No.
Okay, so let's start with that. Because in Vancouver, they have 700,000 people. They have 10 councillors. Big city. A lot of different complex issues, building and all of that. We seem to feel we need 17. And with youth, I think you need a clear strategy. You need to sit down and listen, ask the people, like my children have all left. They live in other parts of the world. I know why they left, I won't discuss it here, but those issues are about trying to understand how you can get something solved. I mean, we still have issues that it's like molasses. You can't get anything done because you have all these government folks in the way stopping things from happening. I mean, we still, I know this isn't about youth, but the New Scotland line still doesn't have a culvert. Happened in the spring, this is October now. We can't figure out a culvert. So youth is a much more complex issue.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can't put a piece of metal over a body of water that's this big, how are we gonna do this if we don't get focused and efficient on what we're doing?
I'd like to support what Gordon's already said. There's a sort of a little saying within the social sector, not about us, without us. So when you talk about making change in the community, if you're trying to make change without engaging the people who are actually going to be affected by the decisions that you make, the decisions are not going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
So I really support what you're saying, and I think that a number of community building initiatives that I've been involved in over the last couple of decades started with a conversation with people who were going to be affected by any decisions that were made. So pulling people together from your age group and really trying to find out whether some of the things that you've said, they're also going to say. Entertainment is important. I want something to do when I'm not working.
Mm-hmm.
I want things for the family to do. You know, church and other recreational activities. And don't start on the Twin Pad Arena. And,
Twin Pad Arena.
I do think that I know I started off by saying that this is a topic regarding youth, but I do agree with what Henry's saying in that it really has to do with the way that we look at a problem and we try to piece together exactly what the problem is and how to solve it. And I think that one of the things that isn't working, and it's very clear across the board, is decisions that are made in a room between 17 councillors and a mayor, disconnected entirely from where the decision is going to be impacting. So in this case, when you're mentioning, you know, how long it's taking just to put a piece of metal across a culvert, or trying to attract youth, it's clearly not going to be done by sitting around in a room and having a debate completely disconnected from the people who it affects.
Yeah.
So really, I think that's what we need to start doing. We need to start thinking about the people that these decisions affects and start engaging them.
But John's right though, when it comes down to the jobs, like when I have 4 somewhat adult children, anywhere from 21 to 25, and when they're out there busting their hump each week for $15 an hour, which they just raised, but I mean, stop and think how a person's supposed to live in an economy like today on $15 an hour. That's $750 a week before the taxes come off. I know why they're all living at home. I mean, you know, they can't afford to go out and live. When you go on Indeed and you look at Chatham-Kent and you see all these jobs, there's hundreds of jobs, 750 jobs I believe is what it is. Why aren't those jobs filled? Those jobs aren't filled because nobody wants to go work for $14 an hour, or $15 an hour, or whatever they're getting paid, because you can't sustain a family and a life on that. You just can't.
You can't. Well, you look at people on welfare or things like that. They get dental, they get all that, and they pretty much get the same amount as the people that are making $15 an hour. So why work?
Well, that's it.
You're
By
better
the
off
time
not working than you are working.
by the time you pay at $14 an hour, by the
Yep.
time you pay a babysitter or wherever
You can find one.
your children are at, and by the time you get your transportation, if you can get some and afford it, like let's not look at affording a car. They were talking about earlier about buses and stuff and getting people to work. I come from a community in Merlin. There's absolutely nothing there, really. Like it's a great community, but the dealership is closed since GM restructured and you had to build your facility the way they wanted it. It's gone. There is people opening up stores. There's a small honey store that's opening up in town, but those aren't jobs that are gonna, like, they might be just self-employed. They're not gonna employ people. And in order to get that, those people that live in Merlin have to either own a car. So to get back to what they were making at $14 an hour, at the end of the day, the arenas aren't being utilized because they can't afford to put their children in sports. They can't, and there is programs out there for that, but it comes back to a pride issue, right? A lot of people do have pride in this municipality. They just can't get themselves. It's easier to say no when your child never experiences it than to say yes and have to take them out of it.
But the opportunity, I think, is you know, young people want a lot of things, but they need access to capital. We've talked about this before. And if you have access to high-speed internet, and you live in Merlin or anywhere else, and you have, say, $5,000 to start a business, and maybe you have to start 10 of them before one of them works for you,
Right.
you will do that. Our problem is we don't have access to capital for the young, which I want to help with, and I don't know how many of you guys want to buck up when we get in, but hopefully you'll help. And hit on other people for this, right? And the second thing is high-speed internet, because those are two very, like, been a business guy all my life, did a startup 2 years ago. And it's all about access to capital and access to high-speed internet. Like, I talk to people in my practice who consult for different companies, and they're working in Erie-O because they figured the internet problem out. Like, if we just had high-speed internet, people would, with the cost of housing, you tell someone in Toronto, I know someone's living in a 400 square foot condo, paying $2,200 a month. You tell them we have the same high-speed internet out here in Mitchell's Bay or Erie-O or whatever, they would be here in a shot. But we don't. I have people in my area who still have dial-up, for God's sakes. Dial-up. I remember dial-up like a long time ago, and I'm old. So
With high speed, how about medium speed? We'd take anything out there.
So to me, there's a real disconnect between,
Yes.
like you say, listen to the people. What do they need? It's not that complex, but we make everything complex. You know, I heard earlier, which killed me. You know, we're going to be mentored by counselors who've been at this for a long time. We'll ask what the deficit is. Do we know what the deficit is? Anybody have any idea?
Well, it's 80-something million.
It's reported as 86,
Yeah.
but it's 133.
Well-
Because they forgot to tell us about the 47 million in unfunded liability to the employees. So we've underfunded their pensions, we've underfunded their benefits, and in the fine print it says, we'll be funded from the taxpayers on day it comes due. Well, guess what? That's us.
Yeah.
So why don't you just tell us the truth? Stop telling us something that's not true. And the other thing I heard earlier about the railroad, well, we were in camera. Well, we don't get to hear that when you're in camera. So why did you buy the railroad? When a company in the private sector says, we can't do this, we're losing $1 million a year, group of politicians get together and say, we can do this. We can do this. No one's ever run a railroad, but we can do this. And it costs us $6 million now, 6.6 actually. So these are the disconnects we have. These aren't that complex problems, we just use common sense. We can't keep spending this money because we're not gonna have any.
Well, the money they're spending is being spent on useless stuff. Like, we'll take the railroad, for example. Ben's gonna hate me, but we don't need the, what'd you call it, the trans...
What'd you call it? I love that. That's
the Great Ontario Marathon Trail.
Great Ontario.
No, it's the what you call
it.
Yeah.
The
Great Ontario Marathon Trail.
Okay, now there's one thing I want to throw out there about the Great Ontario Marathon Trail.
You're already
Did I
saying
get it right?
like it's happening. Yeah, I like it.
Well,
You're futuring it. I like it.
They're taking the gravel out of these railroads and they're putting them on the rural roads. They're regrinding this stuff so sharp that it's cutting the farmers' tires on their vehicles. I've had 2 farmers that walked up to them and it's like, holy geez, I'm not even elected yet and you're tearing me a new one.
I've been getting calls about this too because in most parts of the world that's considered toxic material.
Yeah, what's in
it's
that?
toxic.
But here's the other part of that trail idea, not to shoot it down, because I would unless there was a health inspection done on it, because you got to remember all those farmers are spraying chemicals on those crops that are near that trail. So if you have your children running down there, what kind of side effects are they going to cause?
Well,
From
the
the
issue actually
people
is
using it, the
it's the leakage.
pesticides and all that. No, I'm not talking about the runoff. I'm talking about a farmer's out spraying his field, and I take my grandkids for a bike ride down there. I don't have any yet, but when I do, I take them down that trail, and they're breathing in this pesticide.
I'm not sure you should be walking on the trail because most of the drippage that comes from the locomotives over the years, the world has decided that aggregate that we're spreading on the roads should be tested, and the surface at least should be processed. Underneath it's probably okay, but the surface is toxic. And I've asked under Freedom of Information, because talk about transparency, as you know. If you want to get information, you need to file a Freedom of Information request. So hopefully that'll come soon. As far as how was that tested, because I get calls now, just like you do, and take samples. I've gone out and taken samples. I got all these yogurt buckets in my garage. My wife thinks I'm crazy. And because this stuff, some of it you can pack like a snowball.
It's not
How's
good.
that? I don't get it. So just tell us if it's safe. Just tell us what tests you did. We accept that you're going to do this, and let's look at it.
Well, a lot of it's the runoff from the railroad ties. When it rains, it runs off from the railroad ties. That's a lot of the hazardous waste right there.
Yeah, it's creosote and there's mercury and all kinds of stuff. But it may be safe. Just tell us. But the problem is when people don't, when they say, you need to file a Freedom of Information request, we're not telling you. That's a little weird.
What are you hiding? Yeah.
Well, just tell us. We're just. You work for us, right? Don't you work for us?
And you got to pay for that freedom.
But you talk about
information you
Yeah,
request.
exactly.
You talk about trails. There's 2 rail lines from Blenheim to Ridgetown, right on through, that was never done nothing with. They come in, they took the ties off, they took the gravel off, and it's sitting abandoned now.
Yeah, but those are owned by CN. Those aren't owned by the municipality thing.
But it's still sitting abandoned.
But when you talk about the spending, like I look at, a lot of us have been in conversation with a lot of people, and I know I'm going to get on the medic topic here, but I'm going to bring it up because Chatham-Kent Fire, it was approved. They bought like a CPR dummy so people can train. The thing is so high tech, it costs $80,000, and guess where it is today? Still sitting in a box in a storage locker, never been opened, at 80 grand. Then on top of that, they bought a $100,000 trailer to tow it around in, and it's used for parades, and now apparently the roof leaks and it's no good for nothing. So you talk about the spending and the useless stuff that goes on. There's just 2 examples. That dummy is more high tech than some of the colleges that teach paramedic courses have. And our fire department bought it, not the EMS, our fire department bought it, and it's sitting in a storage locker. Come on. You want to talk about not having money to run the municipality and fix the New Scotland line, or to fix the Mint line out in Tilbury, or to fix the Morris line out near Merlin. There's $180,000 on a piece of equipment that was never used and probably never will be used. It might after sparking that today, but moving forward, what I'm saying is how many culverts or bridges, or I call them bridges, everyone calls them culverts, I don't know what it...
Culverts are cheaper.
Well, whatever. But there's a distance that a
Yep.
culvert has
Yep.
to be in order
Yep.
for it to be a culvert and a bridge, so I'm just gonna call them bridges. Regardless, how many of those could you put in these small little communities? They get a call in Tilbury, and they gotta go down the Mint line all the way to the Sinclair line, the bridge is out. So now they gotta go all the way down Highway 2, the response times for our EMS is terrible. Not because of the people, it's because of what they have to go through.
Yeah.
And this senseless spending and this approved senseless spending has to stop. And it's not just about what the EMS does, there's probably useless spending on all kinds of things. $5 million for that trail on, what is it, Riverview line there, or Grand River line, sorry, that's going, like they said earlier, it's going to Perry Siding and you turn around and come back. Or you
But you
come
have
up
to
the
have-
other side.
You have to have priorities, like you mentioned the police, right? Sorry, the EMS.
Right.
First people I visited with were the EMS in Tilbury. Great guys, great folks, men and women.
Yep.
And I said, well, I need to learn this, so I want to do a ride-along, which I've done years ago with the police to figure out what the police do. I'll go on a Friday night at 2 o'clock in the afternoon until 2 in the morning. You find out a lot about what police does. So I thought this is a great idea. And they said, no, you can't do a ride-along with the EMS. I go, why not? Well, you don't understand confidentiality. He said, well, you know what I do for a living. I mean, that's what we do. Well, it might get gory. I said, well, don't let me get out of the truck if it's a bad scene or something. But then I had to go to Dartmouth. I love Dartmouth. I go there, great lobster and stuff. But they wouldn't let me do a ride-along. And I had to call and back and forth because you can't do a ride-along. Well, how do you know what these people are dealing with unless you hang out with them? No one's ever done a ride-along. No counselor's ever done a ride-along.
Yep.
I don't think administration's done a ride-along. So how do you know their life if you don't
Yeah.
go with them?
And if you want to talk fiscal responsibility,
Yeah.
It's not simply about saying no, no, no at every vote.
That's right.
Because
it's
that's
not.
not fiscal responsibility. Fiscal responsibility is spend the time where the money is going to be spent, figure out how it needs to be spent. It's like you said, the people who are working these jobs are great people, but they're working within a system that's designed to make sure that we waste money and that we make it difficult for the people who are doing those jobs to do the jobs that they're being paid to do. Like, if we wanted to be fiscally responsible as a municipality, we would take the time to go to the places, spend time with the people, and understand the work that they're doing so that the way that we spend money to support those services is tied directly to the work that they're doing, instead of it being tied to an abstract budget with no idea of how this money is actually going to be spent.
I couldn't
think-
agree with you more, Gordon,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it gets to a point where the people you hit the nail on the head. The people you should talk to are the people that do the job day in and day out.
Yeah.
We're just a voice for them. Yeah,
There's
they
a great
can,
deal of financial engineering. I'll just do this one for you, okay? So if you look at the financial statements, at the end of all our expenses, we have 49 million left in 2017. That's the actual number. You add in depreciation, sorry to bore you with the numbers, we're at 87 million of cash sitting there. After all our obligations are met, what do? They start spending. They spend 52 million on stuff. Stuff. Well, so you ask, what kind of stuff? Well, you gotta file the Freedom of Information Act because that's confidential. So now, even though let's assume that 52 million is great stuff, we have 30 million left over. We're overtaxing the people by $30 million because they hide it.
Yeah.
$30 million to me, I know the last gentleman said 300 million is a drop in the bucket. 30 million is a lot of dough. Think of what you can do with 30 million. Start off by giving it back to the people who are overtaxed. You know, they talk about small business. I've said it before, a business, a building in Blenheim worth $129,000 is taxed $6,500. Nowhere on the planet can you do that. And that's one of our problems. It's mismanagement of the finances, and it's hiding it from the people. They don't tell you, they don't want to tell us. They pass motions so we can't ask questions. Did you find that strange?
there's a lot of things that there's not a lot of clarity on. Exactly. And you know, you got to jump through hoops and red tape to get it.
Until we get in, yeah.
Even when we get in, are we free as counselors to get
Yes.
that information
Yes.
in a heartbeat?
We will be just the day after the election. We're going to meet with administration, and we're going to go over that quote where we set policy, you do what we say, and if you don't do what we say, we'll have talk, as they say, behind closed doors. But we're going to get this done, and the people need to know. The people need to know what stuff you bought for $53 million. Because there's people, when you knock on the door, they can't pay their property taxes.
Well, and wait till next year.
Yeah.
You think it's bad now? I believe next year is when MPAC comes and reevaluates all the properties. So all these people that are moving in from Toronto right now, a normal house that was about $170,000 around here, like I'm just ballparking it, is now selling for $300,000. Let me drop it down to 150 just for simpler math. 150. Now they're saying that house is $300,000. Those people were paying $2,600 a year in taxes. Now they're going to be paying almost double that. So let's just cut it in half of what that 26. So now they're paying $3,900. How do you think somebody on a fixed income, 2 seniors living in a house trying to still maintain their family home, but they're seniors, are going to be able to afford an increase of another 20 or another 50% on top of their property taxes when impact comes around? Because everybody is, and I'm not telling the people from Toronto not to move here, they're buying the houses because they can afford it. But the thing is, what does it do to the housing market here? Everybody's talking about tiny houses, tiny houses. What kind of a community does that breed? If you go down Tweedsmuir Street back in the 40s when the war was on, they're all wartime houses. They're all small. You can look at them. My aunt and uncle used to live in one. I mean, they were affordable and this, that, and the other thing. They're selling for $180,000 now. I mean, I don't know how you stop that, because the only way to challenge it is to do it in writing to MPAC to say, I'm not paying this for taxes, my house isn't worth that.
We have to cut our mill rate. We can't keep
No, that's what I'm
taxing these
getting.
people.
That's what I'm getting at,
I mean,
Henry.
it's not impact.
We have to stop. No, but they do the assessment on
I
the
know
property.
that. I have a lot of those problems.
Right.
But here's the issue. The issue is what we're charging the people on that evaluation. Someone comes here from Waterloo, they paid $400 for a house, $400,000 for a house. They come here, they buy one for $200. They're paying more taxes here. It is insanity. And of course, we get the dance. Well, in our infrastructure, well, first of all, when there's 10 bridges that need to be fixed, we only fix 6. When the administrator in charge of bridges says we have 10 in dire straits, they say, well, sorry, we only have 6. But we're going to put $7 million into a wind farm because that's a great investment. Well, you've never invested a penny of your own money in your life. Why do you think $7 million in a wind farm is a good investment? That's ludicrous.
Well, on top of that, and I know I'm probably sidetracking it to another issue here.
Well, we did start off on youth, but this
is the water out in North Kent? I'm not in that riding, but from what I'm told, when they brought the windmills here, there's a little box you can check that says we're a windmill friendly community, and the municipality was given $4 million. I'd like to know how much it would have cost to run the water out to all of those houses out there. Take that $4 million plus tell the windmill companies you're going to kick in the rest if you want these windmills here, so these people out in Dresden and that have some good drinking water. Might have a little chlorine in it, but it's good drinking water. It's better than the dirt they're drinking now.
Well, we need to know what our bonus policy is because they won't tell us what that is. A bonus policy is when they get, we won't use kickbacks, when they get money like that, or the money they get for the dump down in my area, that money is cash that they can then spend a certain way. Most municipalities have clear policies on how you can spend that. We haven't been told yet what our policy is because I'm not sure they have one.
I'd like to know where that.
I would like to
$4 million
because,
went.
exactly.
And I would like to know what Steve and Scott's saying. Okay?
Yeah,
Hurry
sorry,
up.
Steve.
Steve, get something in here. You got a couple seconds to break into the action.
Talking about the water. You hear everybody talking different reasons, like it's their fault, the water was bad beforehand. In the end, we're not a third world country. Everybody should have safe drinking water.
Right.
So I think we should be running water out there if we have the facilities. I mean, farmers will use it for their fields. I mean, everybody can use it. They'll make money off it. So why don't we just run the water to everybody?
What do you think, Karen?
I think it's appalling that we have to deal with an issue like this in this day and age. I really do.
I think it's a slap in the face when they invest in the turbine companies after they say that the turbine companies did it to them.
Well, but I think we need a third party assessment, arm's length from the municipality so that we can get a true answer.
Not somebody that
either
was purchased by the
or deny
turbine companies.
the fact that the turbines are.
But regardless, go ahead.
I was going to say, I also want to point out too that this has come up. I've heard this knocking on doors that when it comes to the water issue, there's this way of trying to shirk your responsibility. Council to shirk their responsibility by saying it's a provincial issue. It's a provincial issue. It's not our problem. It's not our problem. If we have issues that are affecting the municipality, there is nothing saying anywhere in a procedure that council can't take on an initiative to work towards having more say with our provincial reps to, if we need to, I've said this before, if it requires putting someone at Queen's Park so that we're aware on the day-to-day basis of decisions that are being made at Queen's Park that affect us here, then that's what we have to do. And if you want to talk about fiscal responsibility, how much is it going to cost us to be able to supply running clean water to these families who are affected by a poor decision that's made both in the municipality and by the province?
That's right.
And it all could have been avoided by having a better connection with our provincial counterparts. And if the same thing's happening federally, we should be doing the same thing. It is an absolute embarrassment to say that it's not our responsibility, and we can do a lot more. And I do think that this is something. So if the issue right now, how we deal with it, I think is a little bit separate from how do we avoid this situation in the future. And I think if we don't learn from this is a absolute catastrophe. And if we don't learn from this catastrophe, it's going to happen again.
I think the biggest problem is we're doing all this behind closed doors. Nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Okay, so we're getting, you guys have ate up some serious time there. All right, which was good. We started off, well,
Sorry,
I
Ben.
kind of time. John, take the floor for a second. I want to hear from you.
Back to the youth again.
Okay,
If
good.
it wasn't for our service clubs and our rural communities doing programs for their kids, there would be nothing for the kids in the communities. Our service clubs are holding everything together. They're building parks, they're having programs, they put on the parades, and every time they being involved in a parade or anything, Chatham-Kent is awful to deal with on getting everything organized. And you're doing things for Chatham-Kent, and you're getting bucked every time you go to do it. They just don't want to give you the permits. They have to have a permit for this, a permit for that. It's just, you're trying to do community work, and they're knocking them down every time.
I have a really strong bias to support the nonprofit sector and volunteerism, having lived in that world for the last 40 years. So I am fully supportive and am a passionate advocate for service organizations and volunteers who really are the backbone of many of the communities.
And it's
here in
hard to
Chatham-Kent.
get sponsors from Chatham-Kent. It is. Like, they just knock you down every chance they get.
Well, most of the events in Chatham-Kent are the service organizations,
Yes.
right? Not Chatham-Kent themselves, but they'll give themselves on pat on the back for doing it, but they don't do it.
Well, when government does too much for the people lose their ability to be able to feel that they have a contribution to make. So we have to be really, really careful.
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Go for it, Henry.
Do we agree we should stop eating on the taxpayers' dime before meetings?
Yes.
Absolutely.
It sends a message. I know you don't like that, but it sends a message, because when you ask people to sacrifice and you lead by example, and you have a catastrophic financial situation, you've done the stupidest things on the planet with the taxpayers' money, don't you think it's a nice message to send? That just like all our taxpayers who carry their buckets to work, and lunch, I had 2 lunches from the freezer today, I'm sure no one bought me lunch today. Why should the taxpayers buy us lunch or dinner every time we go? They say it's only 23, 25 grand, what's the big deal?
But I don't think it should stop there, Henry.
No, I'm just starting with that, because I want to be
I
simple.
know you're starting with that.
I
I'm just adding on to that,
Yeah.
saying I don't think it should stop there.
I agree with you, but
So,
what about
it-
lunch?
you know-
Are we gonna agree we're not gonna eat, we're gonna bring our bag, I'm bringing mine, I already bought my lunch box.
You can bring mine too.
I'm not cooking for you, sorry, I don't have an approved kitchen. I need an inspector to come in and
I know
approve my
somebody
kitchen.
that took a couple courses in cooking in high school.
I went to.
I thought they were the easiest courses.
But I'm serious about this, how many of
No,
you will pledge
hear
to do
you.
that? I
Sure.
mean, no one else will.
I
will.
Hey, I will. I
Good,
have no
awesome.
problem with that.
Awesome.
So we have agreed,
Few of us will.
no paid lunches.
Well, how is
Correct.
that a message sent to the people who work? Some people,
like it.
if you're in a small business, you know how hard you have to work for the first buck of profit? It's ridiculous. Those of you who are in bed, you work so hard to make $1. It's impossible. And these folks say, well, I can, it's only 23 grand of your tax dollars. We'll just eat on you.
All right, guys. So for those of you watching at home,
Sorry.
thank you. And for the crowd that's been here, thank you. We're going to wrap it up with our 90-second-ish time thing. And that'll be good. But I want to thank the 107 Cafe for allowing us to be here using their facility. I want to thank you guys, and I want to thank Konstantino's for being our main sponsor. So if you're going to buy some pizza tonight, buy it from Konstantino's. They have some amazing stuff. They got panzerottis too, and I like the panzerotti. I'm a big fan of the panzerotti. So do you guys like pizza?
Yeah.
Love it.
Everybody likes pizza. Okay, so we're going to finish this off, and I want to thank everybody. And we're going to start with you, Steve.
Well, I think number one, we need to stop doing projects halfway. Like you see the little bike tracks, a little piece here, a little piece here, a little piece here. We need to just finish the jobs. I think that's one way we could save money. Spend a little bit more now, and you're not constantly doing it and spending more in the future. Besides that, we need to help out the people instead of worrying about ourselves. You know, bring clean water to everybody and things like that.
John?
Improvements. We need improvements on our roads, our buildings, our sidewalks. Everything is getting let go. They're not life cycling anything out properly. At one time, everything was life cycled so many years, and it was changed over. It isn't getting done. Our roads, we're not even doing 1% of our roads a year. Everything needs improvements. It's just everything's sliding.
Okay. Mark?
Well, first I'd like to say hi, Margot. I know she's probably watching. Oh, she's here. Okay,
She's here.
I didn't know it was your mom.
Well, put your hand up. Yeah.
Anyways,
She's always helloing.
You're always telling me you got to say hello to Margot.
Well, yeah,
so
we
hello,
do.
Margot. If I'm wasting my 90 seconds saying hello to her, that's okay.
Don't drink bottled water, and make sure you say hi to my mom.
Yeah,
There we go.
that's what I do. But, you know, the long and short of it, we do live in a great community here. The municipality is a good place. I just think there's been some misguidance on spending the dollars. Obviously, you got that from me. But I think in the future, whoever the next council is, hopefully I'm on it. But whoever it is, hopefully they look at things a little more diligently and not just frivolously spending money on stuff that's not needed. I mean, you know, I could go on for hours talking about the misappropriation of funds, but I'm not going to do that. And I just would like to wish everybody good luck in the election and go from there. And thanks, Ben, for everything you're doing.
Well, thank you, my friend.
Good job.
Appreciate it.
Karen?
At the risk of repeating myself, my vision for Chatham-Kent is no one left behind. And I think the way to get there is by working better together. I think I bring a unique perspective to council in terms of the fact that I have not only worked in government, but I've served in government, having been a municipal councillor for the town of Tilbury 35 years ago. I've owned my own business, so I understand how small business works, and I've worked 40 years in the nonprofit sector, so I think with that well-rounded background, I have something to offer to this council coming up, and I want to wish everybody luck on the election too. And when you look at the calendar and you realize that it's less than 4 weeks away, it's a lot of work still to be done.
And Henry?
Yeah, okay. Thank you. I want to thank you, Ben, for this. It's been great. What's exciting to me is working with the new folks who have this new idea and energy. I think this is a time when we need a different approach to council. I believe we need people who are going to go in and ask the tough questions and fight for the taxpayers. Because I think for too long, the intelligence of the taxpayer has been underestimated by this council. I think together, we're going to set some clear priorities. And I really believe you probably only need me for 4 years, because in 4 years we'll fix this as best I can. And then a more mellow group will probably come in and take over. But I think this is time for the kind of people we have here and the kind of people I've heard in please remember that the rural areas have 11 councillors and the city of Chatham has 6. So I'm a little confused how the city of Chatham has been able to do some of the things they've done at the expense of some of us in the rural communities. And I think this is going to change with this council. I'm very excited. You know, Gordon in Chatham will be great. I know he loves the country too, so we'll get him on board. But we're going to work together to make it better for people in our areas and also, in the end, the people who live in Chatham.
Awesome. And before we wrap it up with Gordon Thomas, again, I'm going to repeat it again, Konstantino's, our main sponsor. I want to give a big thank you to them. Chris, Matt, behind the scenes there, they're the ones that actually make it all come together. And you are going to see some writing from our talented people here, Chris Glassford and the talented Ali Robinson. So you're going to see a lot of their stuff coming out here, and we're going to put 3,000 newsletters with their writing on it about you guys. So hopefully it was good. Okay, so thank you very much, Konstantino's 10-7 Cafe, and Gordon. Wrap it up for us, my friend.
All right, I just want to bring up two main points I think that'll highlight the change that we need to make in decision making in council. The first is the way that we handle infrastructure. We were given the budget, and we know that the way that municipalities deal with our infrastructure is they life cycle, and the way that these decisions get made is they look at what the piece of infrastructure is made of, how long they think that's going to last, and then they budget accordingly. And we all know in our own experience, even with our own vehicles, our house, everything like that, the main contributor to decay is usage, and that's not in any life cycling. So if we want to start getting ahead, if we want to be more proactive in dealing with infrastructure, we got to get away from this traditional way of decision making, and we got to start looking ahead to the future. The second thing is transportation. Transportation in this community it does not help the people that it's intended to help. And like I was trying to say earlier, the only people who are going to tell us when buses need to be scheduled, what routes they need to run, are the people who use that transportation. And it's not just seniors. We've got a college, and we've also got a university campus in the municipality, and students don't typically drive. In fact, it's been on a steady decline. Younger and younger people are not getting driver's licenses, and they depend on that transportation, and we really need to start communicating with them and designing a system that works for them, including our seniors. But I just wanted to point out, because it does often get lost, the students, they need that transportation too, and we need to have a conversation with them so we can build a transportation system that works for Chatham County.
Awesome, and thank you, everybody. And again, thank you to The Universe featuring Ray. It's the first time we kind of had, there we go. And she will be back with us October 3rd, right here at the 10-7 Cafe, where we have a youth panel, and then we have the mayoral roundtable. So that's going to be exciting. Get out and vote. October 22nd is voting day. But you can vote online from October 1st to now October 15th, and I have no clue when the advanced poll thing is. But
11th, 12th, and 13th.
11th, 12th, and 13th. But you can vote online. So get out and vote and participate. Thank you to Konstantino's 10-7 Cafe, and thank you guys.
Thank you.
And
Yeah,
thank you
Ben.
for
Thank you,
watching.
Ben. Thanks.
Thank you.